Ladies and gentlemen, lend me your ears and your eyes. Diva Divine Light, live from Brooklyn, New York.
Know the lane for what you saying, yo. Said it with my 9 million with the dilly, yo. When I be on the mic, yes, I do my duty, yo. While up in the club, I be while in the studio. You don't wanna vibe, nigga, really and truly, yo. My main thug, nigga named Julio, he moody, yo. Like a nigga that'll slap me with the tulio. Bitch, nigga scared to death, act fruity, yo. Fuck that, nigga shorty, she a little cutie, yo. The way you shake it, nigga, wanna get all in the booty, yo. With no delaying for what you saying, yo.
Diva Divine Light.
Really my heart to me. Seats what you got for me. Put more than years with my eyes to see. Still $1 in the place to be. If you really my heart to me. Seats what you got for me. Put more than years with my eyes to see. Still $1 in the place to be. If you.
You're watching Diva, the Divine Light. A fun-loving, caring, passionate person who talks about sex, celebrity, and real-life issues, and even abuse. So hit that like button and make sure you share the show.
Really my heart to me. Seats what you got for me. Put more than years with my eyes to see. Still $1 in the place to be. If you really my heart to me. Seats what you got for me. Put more than years with my eyes to see. Still $1 in the place to be. If you really my heart to me. Seats what you got for me. Put more than years with my eyes to see. Still $1 in the place to be. If you really my heart to me. Seats what you got for me. Put more than years with my eyes to see. Still $1 in the place to be. If you.
Here comes the pitch, and it comes in wide. On the combo.
Hello, hello, hello. Microphone check 1 2 1 2. Can everybody hear me? Give me a 1 or a thumbs up in the chat, please. Thank you. Making sure I don't sound too loud. I don't want to yell either. Do I sound like I'm far away? Do I sound good? Let me know, y'all. Let me know. In the meantime, hello, everyone in the building. Good evening, Flawless. Ta! Vanetta, what's up, my ladies, my sisters? Hey, Charlotte, what's up, lady? I miss Love Zone. What's up? Who else is in the building? Yeah. Jacqueline. What's up, baby? All right, my girl's in the building. My brother's in the building. Tears. What's up, baby? Classy. Girl, I love you. Ave Maria. West Coast. What's up, baby? You know, when the bed bugs bite. You know, shit. Ave Maria. This is why I choose not to engage with motherfuckers and talk about them and, do all these things because I'm really like, I'm with the shit, but I'm not with the shit. I ain't got the time, the energy, my brain be hurting. Like, I can't. My veins pop out of my head. It's bad enough with the bullshit I see going on out here. So, well, guys, I saw Atmos Love today. I got a chance to catch his live earlier. And shout out to my brothers, by the way, Atmos Love Zone, My brother, grown little boy, hello. My brother, fat boy, what's up? My brother, Killer. My brother, James Harris, what's up, y'all? I just want to shout y'all out. My sister Tears and my sister Ty, West Coast Wings, all y'all for doing a great job. We love you guys. The team is real, okay? We have been out here for a long time. These ladies work very, very hard behind the scenes, okay? We give you guys the information. They work behind the scenes. Tiz, you're doing a great job on your channel, mamita. Keep it up. We love you. Atmos and Grown Little Boy, the truth. You already know, sis. I love you. I can't wait to see your ass in that t-shirt. I can't wait to see you in that t-shirt. Girl. Yes. Yes. I saw the final print. I love it. Mamita, I love it. And I love you too. And Classy was on a roll. And people out here just don't listen. They just don't listen. I just, this is why I don't pop brain cells. You feel me? Y'all feel me? And then we got the father. The father's out here being a lunatic because Cash came through. Cash, I love you too. What's up, sis? God bless you. I hope you're having a good day as well. My parents that I love, the Rogers, the Savages, I love y'all. I hope you guys are doing great as well. Pastor Rogers did a nice little sermon on his Facebook Live. I thought that was awesome. I shared it out. I love all you ladies. Jojo, the set, Geronda, as Joy. It's so many of them. I just, we love you all. We've been here, and a lot of us have taken punches, and we're here for you guys. No matter what, we are here for you. And also, guys, wanted to remind you guys that we are still collecting for the transcripts, okay? Right now, the pot is at $475. Give yourselves a round of applause for all who have put in money. Okay. And August 11th is the jury selection for the Northern District of Illinois trial for R. Kelly. Okay. And then August 15th starts his trial. And we have 7 more days, y'all. 7 more days. Okay. Okay. And Whitney D, thank you once again, for apologizing. I apologized to her. She responded back to me. Our shit is officially squashed. I'm glad that, certain things have come to light and certain things have been squashed, and we can move forward as adults, grown women, grown men. We can move on. So proud of us. Yay. We grown folk over here. So, guys, now, before we start any reading, Hamish Showers. Yeah, the hips don't lie. The hips the hips don't lie. That's what Shakira said. Shakira. She said, oh, wait a minute. But we know the truth. We know that the hips do lie. Uh-huh. We know that the hips, they do lie. So, I tell you, when a hit dog hollers, they fucking holler. I mean, and Dana's going berserk over there. I don't know what's going on with him, but that's his business. Yeah, no. He don't like my sisters. That's his business. You know, that's what happens when you want to be fucking around with people, puñeta. Yeah, no. You try to tell people, chill, you know, but, you know. It is what it is, y'all. It is what it is. Sometimes we got to put on these punching gloves and we got to like knock them out the box every once in a while. Give somebody a black eye, move on. These streets is crazy. That's all I know. Yeah, no. Them hips be lying. Yes, girl, them hips be lying. They be lying. Shakira was wrong. She was wrong. Miss April, I'm not going to get you started, mamita. Please, I'm not going to get you started. Don't get started. Unless you're having some fireball. Are we auntie fireball tonight, mamita? Is that what's going on? Let's me. What's up, chula? Hi, baby. Biggest cheater on YouTube with supporters full of side chicks. That's a sad situation, girl. Sad situation. Well, so just one thing. Watch out for people who want to patch things up so quickly because it's transcripts time. And a lot of people use the resources that were provided by this side. Ave Maria Chica, ain't nobody getting my motherfucking transcripts. The only people that are getting the transcripts is mi familia over here. Okay, and that's the only ones that are getting transcripts. Mi familia. Unless you want to pay mi familia $400 a transcript, you know, you want to pay me back or something, you know, that's cool. And then I'll give it to you guys and I'll raffle it off and shit, whatever. Yeah, no. But anyway. Yeah. Y esta loca over here, you got freaking Shrek and the other one over there, the Sly Fox. Lord of mercy, I cannot with those two. Lord. And then you got the flower pot. I mean, it's just. And then you got this other crazy one, the one that looks like the Scarecrow from The Wizard of Oz. I mean, that's what she reminds me of. I mean, really. What's her name? Lady D. That one over there. Have y'all checked out? Lord of mercy. And then we have Black CEO. I cannot. He is such a character. When he talks, he's so animated. It's like watching a cartoon character when he's speaking. It's so fucking funny. I can't. Give me a second, guys. All right, so I wanted you guys to go back in time, okay? I want us to go back in time. All right, I want to do this part of the segment first. Unless y'all want me to read first. Do you want me to present said evidence, you know, to corroborate part of this motion? Or do you want me to read the motion first, y'all? All right. Put a 1 in the chat if y'all want to hear a chapter in Soulless, okay, where he speaks about the videotape. Maybe we can go back in time and then I can read the motion. And then you guys can have your judgments after you listen to Soulless. How's that? What do you guys think about that? Let me know. All right. So put a 1 in the chat if you want to listen to Soulless first, and put a 2 in the chat if you want me to read the document first. Let's do it like that. Okay, so yes, right? It makes sense, right, Jacqueline? That's what I was saying too. I was like, I don't know how I want to start the segment, but it's either going to be, yeah, right? Yeah, it makes sense to listen to Jim first and then read the document. So, yes, we're going to do that real quick, okay? So let me prepare my mic. And let me know, guys, when I start to play Jim's book, let me know if you can hear it clearly, that it doesn't sound muffled or anything like that, okay? Yeah. You know, yeah, you're right about that, listener. All right. Making sure my microphone is in. All right, let me play. All right, guys, I'm about to play it. Here we go. Now, this is a chapter in Jim Derrel McDavid's book called Soulless, The Case Against R. Kelly. And it's chapter 7, okay? Chapter 7, and it's titled, Go to Your Mailbox, okay? And in this chapter, he's going to speak about the videotape, okay? All right, here we go.
Chapter 7. Go to your mailbox.
Guys, remember, if you guys need me to turn up the volume, put a 2 in the chat. And if the sound is good, put a 1 in the chat, okay?
The first Friday in February 2002, I planned to spend a long day working at home, powering through on 4 cups of...
He said, guys, the first Friday of February of when? Wait, let's pay attention again. Let me know if you can hear that, guys. I'm going to start over. All right, so it sounds clear. Good. All right. It sounds good. Okay.
Chapter 7. Go to your mailbox. The first Friday in February 2002, I planned to spend a long day.
February 2002, guys. February of 2002. Put that in the chat so we can remember that. February of 2002.
Working at home, powering through on 4 cups of coffee. After taking my 5-year-old daughter to preschool, I spent the morning transcribing a phone interview with neo-soul singer Alicia Keys.
What's up, T-Bam?
Who was returning to Chicago on a tour stop, supporting her phenomenally successful debut, Songs in A Minor. There's always those 2 sides, Keys said when I asked about the mix of praise and criticism she'd gotten for talking about how hip-hop sometimes disrespects women. I just feel it's time to show people how beautiful a woman is and how much she's worth and how much she should be respected. There's so much more than what's kind of become the cliche of women in music. As the pop music critic at the Chicago Sun-Times, I spent a lot of my time writing feature previews of artists coming to town, as well as reviewing their shows. For important national or high-profile local artists, I wrote longer features for the Sunday paper, as well as reviewing albums every Sunday, and sometimes on Tuesdays when an especially anticipated release arrived in stores. I wrote obituaries of the greats on deadline. James Brown delayed my daughter opening her presents for a few hours on Christmas morning 2006, and I reported or wrote commentary on news stories on my beat, from a stampede at the E2 nightclub on the South Side that left 21 people dead in 2003, to the corporate merger of Ticketmaster and concert promoters Live Nation, which sent the price of tickets soaring. Investigative stories about R. Kelly added to the usual workload for both legal affairs reporter Abden Palish and me. Rare was the week when each of us didn't have half a dozen bylines on our respective beats. But sometimes you choose your stories, and sometimes they choose you. After I transcribed the Keys interview, I wrote and filed the feature to run before her show at the South Side's Airy Crown Theater. Then I dove into transcribing another phoner with Scotty Moore, the guitarist who'd been a sideman on the best recordings by Elvis Presley. My job was nothing if not musically diverse. I planned to get a jump on the deadline for writing that column when the phone rang. Annoyed and eager to be done for the day, I answered in practice harried journalist dudgeon. "Jim DeRogatis." "Go to your mailbox," a gruff baritone commanded, then hung up. I already expected and dreaded what I'd find. Frustrated that we hadn't been able to nail all the facts about R. Kelly and the girl he called his goddaughter, Roshona Landfair.
February of 2002.
The first story Abden Palish and I published in the Sun-Times a few days before Christmas 2000 made no mention of that relationship. Only one sentence even hinted at its existence. Chicago police twice have investigated allegations that Kelly was having sex with an underage female.
Chicago police investigated twice,
but dropped the investigations because the girl would not cooperate. 6 weeks after the first story ran, Abden and I each got a letter, CC'd to editor Michael Cook, as well as the paper's media attorney, Damon Dunn. Writing on behalf of his clients, Greg and Valerie Landfair, and their daughter, Roshona, Chicago lawyer Daniel H. Toohey cited that one sentence. The natural and obvious implications are false and defamatory. The fact that the Landfairs are not identified by name in your article makes no difference. It is well known in their community that Robert Kelly is a close friend. Demand is hereby made upon you to immediately cease and desist. The letter mentioned Roshona's name 4 times and misspelled it twice. Rather than worrying anyone at the paper, we thought the letter confirmed we'd been onto something. Kelly himself never threatened to sue the paper for any story Abden and I wrote. Ultimately, we would share 33 bylines between 2000 and 2008, and his camp never even demanded a correction or a clarification.
You see how he said he had been writing stories from 2002 to 2008, and not one time did R. Kelly try to sue his paper, him, the company, no one. But they sent a cease and desist letter. And it started all in December, by Christmas time. 6 weeks later, all of this other stuff happened. That's what he's explaining now. Hey, Rockin'.
We didn't learn anything else about Kelly's relationship with Roshona until shortly before the next Christmas, on December 19th, 2001. The Kelly story had a way of ruining my holidays. Sparkle called me this time, her voice shaking and fraught with emotion. "When you talked to me last year, I couldn't say anything, but I've since gotten proof. This is not a rumor. This is something that I totally seen with my eyes. I got a phone call on Friday stating that there was a tape surfacing with my niece. And I know you can't publish minors' names, but I was just like, okay, is it true? Is it true? Is it true? So 2 of my friends actually viewed the tape and know my family personally, so they knew it was my niece. During my reporting a year earlier, Sparkle hadn't said much when I connected with her through a Motown Records publicist and asked about the relationship between Kelly and her niece, Roshona. I'm not her parents or whatever. Now, she continued, a man had come to her apartment claiming to represent a Chicago attorney named Buddy Myers. He gave her the lawyer's card, and then he showed her a videotape. What she saw left her disgusted, horrified, and enraged. She said the man left with the tape, and she didn't hear from him again, but she began making phone calls, telling people what she'd seen. She asked her brother to call their sister. Sparkle had been estranged from Valerie and Greg Lanfair since she told them to keep their daughter away from the star after she split with him. Next, Sparkle called the Illinois State's Attorney's office. She didn't know exactly who to ask for and wound up talking to the Deputy Supervisor of Felony Review. She took notes during these calls, and she carefully spelled the name of the man, Robert Heilengoder. Years later, I talked to Heilengoder, now retired. I worked on murder cases, not sex crimes, but I took Sparkle's cold call. I remember she was speaking very cryptically. Well, what if I had this, and what if I had that, and can't you do something without? And I'm like, well, if what you're saying is true, you have to come forward, and we'd have to see this tape. Next, Sparkle called the Illinois Department of Children and Family Services, where she spoke to a woman named Kim. She didn't catch her last name. Kim told Sparkle the same thing. The office could only act if it had a copy of the tape. Finally, Sparkle called me. At first, I thought she might have seen the first tape that had been sent to the Sun-Times via FedEx 11 months earlier, but she described a much longer and more disturbing video. She believed her now 17-year-old niece, Roshona, appeared in the scene with Kelly when she was 14, based on her hairstyle at the time. The horrible thing about this tape is he's doing some things to her that I know it had to have been going on for a long time. The most meaning thing on that tape is that he's pissing in her mouth and, excuse my language, nutting in her mouth, telling her to pucker up her lips. She's a young girl, so he's just brainwashed her to death. Something needs to be done. I called William Buddy Myers first thing the next morning. I have no idea why they threw my name around. I'm not involved with R. Kelly right now, or anybody connected with R. Kelly right now. The attorney kept a low public profile, Abden said, though Myers also had been one of the owners of the Chicago Wolves American Hockey League team since its inception. Sparkle told me she believed that whether or not the man who showed her the tape was connected to Myers, he did it to confirm the girl was Roshona, and that she'd been underage in the clip, probably so he could blackmail Kelly. The way Myers said those last 2 words, right now, prompted me to keep questioning. Have you ever represented anyone connected to Kelly? Will you? Do you have a videotape of Kelly in your office? Have you seen one? Quote, I don't have a videotape. I've got some people I've talked to briefly, but nothing further. Right now, my firm has not been engaged with anybody having anything to do with R. Kelly. I've heard some scuttlebutt, but that's all I'm at liberty to say right now. Through the holidays and into the new year, Abden and I called all the sources we'd developed. As of the first week of January 2002, none of them had yet seen a tape with Roshona, though several had heard about a new video on the streets. We agreed with city editor Don Hayner. We didn't have a story yet because we didn't have a tape, but we kept making calls. Then, a month later, somebody called me. Go to your mailbox. I went to the mailbox beside the front door of the house I'd only recently purchased on Grace Street on Chicago's northwest side, and found an unmarked VHS cassette in a blank manila envelope. You have to be accessible if you're a journalist, and even after the bullet through the window on Ashland Avenue, I'd made sure my home office number and address were listed. I ran upstairs to my daughter's bedroom, popped Toy Story 2 out of the VCR, put the unmarked tape in, tossed her beloved Jessie doll aside so I could sit on the edge of what she called her big girl bed, and hit play. The 26-minute, 39-second video seemed to have been shot in the same location as the first short tape we'd received, in the room with the rough-hewn, light-colored beams. Abden and I had since learned that some members of Kelly's crew called it the Colorado Room, though most referred to it as the Log Cabin Playroom. It was located in the converted Baptist church he owned on George Street. More of the room could be seen in this new tape, including a huge pine-paneled hot tub. The video lacked a timestamp, but we later concluded it was made sometime in late 1998 or early 1999, possibly around the holidays. An unseen television played in the background, tuned to a new music video program. Let's Have a Party Tonight by the Backstreet Boys and Too Much by the Spice Girls could be heard, both big hits at the time, and the station aired a commercial for the Money Store, a lender specializing in subprime home equity loans that had stopped using that name about 6 months after its sale in June 1998. Much clearer and longer than the tape from FedEx or the bootleg clip with the legal age dancer, Montina Woods. This video started with a man I immediately recognized as Kelly, sitting on a cushioned bench beside the hot tub, dressed in red sweatpants and a white t-shirt, seemingly checking the angle of an unseen camera. The tape cut out for a second, then returned as the man handed something, I couldn't initially see what, to a fully dressed, big-breasted, short-haired girl with round chipmunk cheeks. I thought I recognized her, too, from the Oak Park and River Forest High School yearbook pictures Abden had photocopied more than a year earlier. It was Roshona Landfair. "Thank you," she muttered, before she performed fellatio on Kelly, occasionally shooting glances at the camera. The video cut out again, then came back as she danced for him in and atop the ledge of the hot tub, following his directions. "Dance faster, baby," now naked except for a big silver cross around her neck. At his prompting, she urinated on the floor outside the hot tub, then straddled him as he sat on the bench, and they had intercourse. Seemingly double her size, he called her Shona, and she called him Daddy. "Daddy fuck you?" he asked. "Yes, Daddy," she said. The girl's eyes had a vacant, disembodied look as she robotically followed Kelly's commands, and her expression showed no signs of pleasure or any emotion at all. The tape cut out again before it returned with the girl lying on the bench next to the hot tub, performing fellatio again, then opening her mouth as Kelly urinated in it and over her breasts and stomach before fondling himself and ejaculating. There, the video ended. I hit eject, immediately got in my car, and drove the 9 miles to the gray, barge-like Sun-Times building, walking straight into city editor Don Hayner's office. He told me Abden had just left. I caught my partner on his cell phone as he rode the Orange Line to Midway Airport for a flight to Denver and the rare splurge of a snowboarding weekend with college buddies and his then 15-year-old son. "No shit," Abden repeated several times as I told him about what I'd seen. "No shit." I watched the tape for a second time within 90 minutes with Hayner and my immediate boss, entertainment editor John Barron, in the paper's closet-sized video room full of VCRs and television sets. Hayner and I watched it again half an hour later with the top news executive Michael Cook, this time on the VCR and much larger TV in his spacious office with windows overlooking the Chicago River. The Sun-Times had set a precedent. or crossed an ethical Rubicon if you sided with those who criticized us by giving the first tape to police, and we didn't debate what to do now. Cook and Hayner called Damon Dunn to inform him of what we'd gotten. Someone in the newsroom, I think it was Hayner, but he doesn't recall, called the Special Investigations Unit at CPD and asked them to come to the office. I went outside and had a smoke, a nasty habit I'd idiotically picked up in the past year at age 37. Less than 4 hours passed between the time I found the tape in my mailbox and when Detective Dan Everett, Sergeant Debbie Chizuski, and a third member of their squad buzzed the intercom at the glass doors between the elevators and the newsroom. John Barron and I met them in the hall and gave them the tape in the manila envelope, barely saying a word. The investigators left, then came back and buzzed again a few minutes later. "Was there a note?" Sergeant Chizuski asked. "And is this the original tape you got?" We assured the officer there wasn't, and it was. A few months later, the Ethics Corner column of the Journalism Trade magazine, editor and publisher, harshly criticized us for these actions. Columnist Alan Walper excoriated us and our editors, saying we, quote, had forgotten for a moment that newspapers report to the public, not the police. Steve Rhodes also questioned the paper's decision in his media column in Chicago Magazine. Several experts in media ethics say the action by the Sun-Times is dangerous, that there is a risk in a news organization's becoming, to use a commonly invoked phrase, an arm of law enforcement, jeopardizing its independence and throwing in with the prosecution. The Sun-Times responded in a column written by Michael Cook and editorial page editor Steve Huntley, unanimously approved by the rest of the editorial board. We think Rhodes and the critics are missing a few obvious and important points. First, no one subpoenaed or pressured the Sun-Times to give police the video. It was our idea. We did it voluntarily because, while sources must be protected, otherwise no one would take their stories to a newspaper, the videotape was not a source. It was a piece of evidence in a criminal investigation that up to that point had been stalled. Second, we do not view crime indifferently. The video showed an adult sexually exploiting a teenage girl and urinating on her. Perhaps Rhodes and company should talk to a few parents to get a sense of this crime. We agree that we are not a law enforcement agency, but we are citizens, not of some journalistic utopia, but of Chicago, and as such, we try to both publish news and do our civic duty. I never thought we did the wrong thing by handing the tape to police. Neither did Abden, who was as sickened by the video as I was when he saw it on Monday. Hayner tried to clear the decks for both of us to spend as much time as necessary on the required reporting before we could write about the tape, but we needed to move fast. We didn't know if any other news organization had it. We didn't know how quickly the police would act, and most important, we didn't know if the actions it depicted were ongoing with Roshona or any other young girl, although we certainly feared the worst. Before the police arrived that Friday evening, and entertainment editor John Barron and I gave them the tape, I made a copy in the paper's video closet. Sun-Times lawyer Damon Dunn will groan when he reads that sentence, but it's a fact. We had to do our job, to verify and report. After the cops left, I called Sparkle. Hayner had confirmed what I'd already known, that I had to show her the tape to determine if it was the one she'd seen and if the girl was her niece, Roshona. Sparkle couldn't come into the office until Monday. That weekend was one of the longest of my life. I rehearsed as usual on Saturday at noon, playing drums with my punk band, Vortis, then took my daughter to the movies early that evening to see Monsters, Inc. I went grocery shopping on Sunday morning, then watched Super Bowl 36, but only because I had to review the halftime show on Deadline. I hate sports. U2 performed with a melodramatic and bombastic tribute to the victims of 9/11. Commenting on the televised music in broadcast spectacles like the Super Bowl and the Grammys, ranked among my least favorite tasks as pop music critic. Watching the video with Sparkle the next day stands as the hardest thing I've ever done as a journalist. Early Monday morning, Sparkle walked off the elevator on the 3rd floor of the Sun-Times, a full-on diva, wearing a white fur coat over a glittery purple dress, sporting dark blue eyeshadow and bright lavender lipstick, her long blonde hair flowing down her back. Uncertain about where to find me, the business reporter she met in the elevator led her to the desk I rarely used in the features department. Pop stars didn't often come into the office, and certainly not dressed as a cutthroat femme fatale. "Somebody's here to see you, D-Row," my colleague said. As we headed to the video closet, he silently mouthed, "Wow." While we watched the tape, which was indeed the same one the man who came to her apartment had shown her, Sparkle wasn't a pop star or a diva. She was a worried and sickened 26-year-old named Stephanie Edwards, who grew up singing in the church and who'd seen her dream of a musical career recast as a nightmare. She trembled at times as she spoke. There were no tissues in the video closet, so when she began to cry, I pulled the handkerchief out of my left pants pocket and handed it to her. She laughed. It seemed like a very old-fashioned thing to do, but my stepdad always carried a handkerchief, and since I emulated him in many ways, so did I. I'd had a woman close to me share her story of sexual assault before, in college. Then I just listened. Now I had to ask questions. It was my job, in a claustrophobic space, while the worst video I've ever seen played for us. I don't think any actress could fake the emotion Sparkle showed about what she saw happening to my heart, her niece, or about the way it had torn her family apart. I mean, the most horrible thing about the tape is when he's relieving himself in her mouth, and I can't even fathom. Sparkle had introduced Rashona to Kelly when her niece was 12, she reminded me, hoping he'd help her musical career. She clearly felt incredible guilt for that. She repeated that Rashona looked to be about 14 on the tape. Kelly was just shy of, or had just turned, 32. She doesn't have her hair like that now. She wears braids now. And by this tape, it looks like she's been doing it longer than 14. It's definitely a plan, a script. She's used to it. She's like, now I have to do this. Sparkle grew most emotional when talking about how Kelly handed Rashona money. She is not a fucking whore. I hadn't noticed what Kelly gave her when I'd watched before, only that something changed hands. Sparkle asked me to rewind and pointed to the screen. Now I saw the cash. "You see that? He's paying her money." That thought made her furious, and she broke down, racked by sobs. "He has to stop," Sparkle said when she caught her breath. "There have been too many to count. They definitely had to be young. His whole MO, he stated this to me long ago. He likes them when they are ripe and young because he can mold them into what he wants them to be and control their minds and make them do what women should do. That's what he thinks. You know, be a servant, be the yes. She's on there calling him daddy. What kind of daddy would do this to their daughter?" Of course, I asked Sparkle who she thought brought me the videotape. She said she didn't know. Journalists often say or ask something because they're fishing for a reaction, or floating a trial balloon, if you prefer that metaphor. I said I thought Kelly's ex-manager, Barry Hankerson, had to be angry about what Kelly had done to his niece, Aaliyah. He was also disgusted by his former client's compulsion to pursue underage girls. He'd asked his lawyer to confirm to me that he made that claim in his resignation letter. Did he steer the tape to me? "I don't know," Sparkle said. "I'm sure he would tell you. He'd have no problem telling you." Hankerson never did. After Sparkle left on Monday, I called John M. Toohey, Kelly's Chicago-based attorney. As Hayner and Damon Dunn instructed, I told Toohey the paper had received a videotape, apparently showing Kelly having sexual contact with an underage girl. and the attorney could come to the office to view it and comment. He declined. It was, Toohey later wrote, an invitation that I was unable to accept at that time. On Tuesday, Abden and I returned to the modest cream-colored stucco house that we'd first visited 13 months earlier in Oak Park, a village of 52,000 people. Oak Park is actually the 29th biggest city in Illinois, one of quaint storefronts and beautiful turn-of-the-century houses, including 25 designed by Frank Lloyd Wright, whose home and studio were there. It all provides a stark contrast to Chicago's neighboring West Side, immediately across Austin Boulevard. Many of the stores that burned there during the 1968 riot still haven't reopened, half a century later. Driving away from Lake Michigan through the West Side to Oak Park can feel at times like traveling from a post-apocalyptic landscape to Main Street, USA in Disney World. No one answered the door to Landfair home on that trip or during our next two visits, the first on a relatively balmy 30-degree afternoon, and the second that evening when the temperature had plummeted and we stood shivering on the doorstep. The family seemed to have left town. We later learned that they'd gone to Europe, ostensibly for a tour by For the Cause, an R&B group comprised of Roshona and 3 of her cousins, but they stayed for several months. Roshona's parents, Greg and Valerie, did not return our calls. They weren't returning calls from family members either, Sparkles said. While racially and economically diverse, the student body at Oak Park and River Forest High School ultimately was as stratified as the neighboring communities. On Wednesday, I interviewed several of Roshona's classmates, feeling decidedly creepy as I approached groups of girls carrying their backpacks and giggling when school let out. I found a trio who said they knew Roshona. She bragged about her friendship with R. Kelly, they said, and the student newspaper had published a photo of Kelly sitting in the bleachers watching her play basketball. The girls had heard about a video, On the Streets. They and other classmates I later talked to told me more about Roshona, a bubbly teen known for stopping and hugging friends in the halls between classes. She had as many white as black friends, and she was a good, though not great, student. She loved to listen to all kinds of music, shoot hoops, and hit North Riverside Park Mall after class, especially when the new Air Jordans arrived, so she could be first to wear them to school the next day. Meanwhile, Abden called a video expert. Slim to none, he said, when Abden asked about the possibility of fabricating such a tape. 26 minutes of putting someone else's head on someone's body. You're talking about hundreds of thousands of hours of frame-by-frame manipulation to make that work. Digital video didn't start to take off until the mid-1990s, and the ability to edit it on home computers only became widely available in the mid-2000s. On Thursday morning, I called Gerald Margolis, Kelly's celebrity attorney in Los Angeles, and left a message that the Sun-Times sought comment for a story about his star client, an underage girl, and a videotape. John Toohey called me. Any tape you have is a fake, and we find the timing of these events to be extremely suspicious, Toohey said of the video he had declined to watch. Asked about the investigation, Toohey said, I would imagine that the police will do their job. Questioned whether he knew if Kelly videotaped his sexual encounters, he snapped at me. I don't think it's any of your business. After the Sun-Times published its first story about the tape, Margolis asked to see it, but the paper's editors and attorneys said it had been a one-time invitation. In a letter dated March 1, Toohey wrote that decision was grossly unfair. He also noted a videotape similar to the one described in the Sun-Times article has been available on an internet site. The owner of that site has been widely quoted in the press and also personally stated to us that the videotape he placed on the internet is a fake and that he put it on the internet to demonstrate it is not Mr. Kelly. Abden and I watched that scene, and indeed, it was not R. Kelly. It was also not the video we'd received. By Thursday evening, Abden and I had written the final draft of our story. It had been read by Hayner and the copy desk, vetted by Dunn, and laid out by the designers. Abden, Barron, Hayner, and I gathered in a conference room with Hook and Crook, editor Michael Cook, and publisher John Cruikshank, and the top bosses read the page proofs. The story did not name Roshona or Sparkle. Sparkle had talked on the record, but identifying her would mean effectively identifying her niece, an underage rape victim. The story did reveal for the first time that we had received another video a year earlier, the one that came via FedEx. It appeared to show Kelly having sex with a different woman whose age and identity have not been determined, we wrote. Based on what police told him that morning about the new tape, Abden wrote, "Now, with the video, authorities tell the Sun-Times they are more optimistic about building a case against Kelly." At one point, Cook stopped reading and pounded the conference table with the palm of his hand. "People do not want to read about urination in their morning paper." The language had become more discreet and less specific with each draft, but I argued that we had to include the specific act. We have to let people know this is not a good time Tommy Lee and Pamela Anderson sex tape, I said. This is different. Cook conceded, but the sentence, "the sex acts include intercourse, fellatio, and urination," only appeared in the 30th of 36 paragraphs when the story ran as the smaller of two on the front page on February 8th, 2002, a week after I received the tape. Chicago police are investigating whether R&B superstar R. Kelly, part of today's opening act at the Winter Olympics in Salt Lake City, had sex with an underage girl and videotaped the illegal act. A 26-minute, 39-second videotape, which was sent anonymously to the Sun-Times last week, shows the singer-songwriter performing various sex acts with the underage girl. "I'm that little bit of hope when my back's against the ropes. I can feel it. I'm the world's greatest," Kelly sang at the Olympics that day. The opening ceremony received the highest Nielsen ratings of any to that point, reaching an estimated 72 million viewers, according to the New York Times. Kelly belted out his new single from the movie Ali, another attempt at a rousing anthem, like I Believe I Can Fly, complete with a gospel choir. The Olympics were a hell of a news peg, but the timing was accidental. The story was a complicated one, and it hadn't been ready to publish a minute earlier. Kelly spoke to Chicago's NBC affiliate, WMAQ, before he took the stage in Utah. "It's not true," the 35-year-old singer said. "All I know is this. I have a few people in the past that I've fired. People that I've thought were my friends that's not my friends. It's crap, and that's how we're going to treat it. The reason these things are happening, I really do believe, is because of the fact that I didn't fall back as far as blackmail was concerned. I didn't give them any money. The world is getting ready to watch me sing a song called The World's Greatest, and you've got a tape out there trying to ruin my career. I feel like I owe my fans." The videotape story got much more attention than anything Abden and I had reported about Kelly before. Once again, the Associated Press picked it up as the Chicago Sun-Times is reporting, recapping the police were investigating a tape with an underage girl, and prominently quoting Kelly's denial. No other news organizations, locally or nationally, forwarded our work or added to the accusations in the weeks that followed. But this time, ministers and community activists in Chicago, Philadelphia, New York, Atlanta, and Los Angeles decried the star's behavior. Many black women urged boycotts of stores selling Kelly's music and radio stations playing his songs. Few of those businesses complied. The singer's record label promptly released a one-sentence statement defending one of its biggest hitmakers. R. Kelly has been with Jive Records for 11 years, and we fully support him and his music. On March 19, 2002, Kelly released his next album, a collaboration with rapper Jay-Z, the best of both worlds. The disc had the combined marketing muscle of 4 record companies: Jay-Z's boutique label, Rockefeller, and Kelly's Rockland Records, and the larger labels for which the artists recorded, Def Jam and Jive. Sales proved disappointing for a joint effort pairing the biggest stars in hip-hop and R&B. The disc sold only 285,000 copies in its first week, at a time when superstar product still regularly moved 1 million units or more upon release. Although he didn't comment on the video story, Jay-Z distanced himself from Kelly, canceling the planned tour supporting the album. This time, a few of Kelly's peers weighed in, dissing Kelly. Rapper Nas told a concert audience, "We're not up here molesting children. We're not the best of both worlds." Cisco, who'd scored a hit with the Kelly-like Thong song, released a new track with the call-out, "The world's greatest, whatever, ain't nothing but a child molester." And multi-platinum producer Dr. Dre shelved a single by his own latest protege, R&B singer Truth Hurts, because it featured a cameo by Kelly. As a member of pioneering gangster rappers NWA, Dr. Dre had a hand in crafting vilely misogynistic tracks such as Find 'Em, Fuck 'Em, and Flee, One Less Bitch, and I'd Rather Fuck You. He had also beaten journalist Dee Barnes and tried to throw her down a flight of stairs, according to Rolling Stone. But even he had limits. "I haven't seen the video," Dr. Dre told MTV, "nor do I want to see it, because there's a kid involved. That's where I draw the line." Abden and I continued following every development on the R. Kelly front through the winter and into the spring. In April 2002, Kelly sold his home in the converted Baptist church on George Street. He'd purchased it in the fall of 1994, and we believed it was the scene of both videos we'd received. The singer had recently bought a sprawling 22,000 square foot stone mansion in South suburban Olympia Fields for $5 million. He'd always been impressed by the place when he drove by with his friends, he says in Solar Coaster. All the more so after he learned it had been built by an executive of his favorite restaurant chain, McDonald's. Abden made an appointment and toured the now empty home on George Street while it was still on the market. I laughed when I thought about him in his suit from Irv's Discount Men's Warehouse, viewing the place with a real estate agent, as if he was a buyer who could afford a $3 million property. I know I couldn't have pulled that off. The listing agent from Coldwell Banker pitched the red brick building in the Chicago Tribune as a very specialized property that would appeal only to a very narrow segment of the population. The house boasted an indoor lap pool, a wall-size shark tank, a home movie theater, and a basketball court, adorned with a Space Jam-inspired mural. It depicted Kelly shooting hoops with the Tasmanian Devil, Michael Jordan refereeing, and Yosemite Sam and Elmer Fudd sitting in the stands. Foghorn Leghorn also appeared, holding a sign reading, "Go R. Kelly." The log cabin playroom interested Abden the most, and he noted that it came complete with video cameras mounted on a wall and on the ceiling above the hot tub. My sources said Kelly had already built an identical room in his new mansion. Investigators told us they'd toured and scrutinized every inch of the house on George Street, but they were frustrated that Mark Cavins, supervisor of the child sex abuse unit for the Cook County State's Attorney's Office, refused to request a warrant for them to do the same at the Olympia Fields mansion. They had hoped to find the clothes Kelly wore in the video. Some thought the state showed too much concern about possible criticism for harassing a black male superstar, and not enough consideration of the young black girl he had victimized. The Landfairs still were not cooperating with law enforcement, and they weren't letting investigators near Roshona. One of them, who'd earlier told me that Greg and Valerie Landfair were ice cold during their initial interviews in 1999 and 2000, said that during the new interviews about the videotape, they thought Greg was on the verge of talking. We kept saying to him, "Man, this is your daughter. You're a father. How can you watch this and not be furious?" But his wife, realizing we were in there with him alone, burst into the room and said, "This conversation is over," and she dragged him out. I continued talking to all the sources I'd developed, and by late April, 3 months after the Sun-Times revealed the existence of the video, some of them had received subpoenas to appear before a grand jury. The star's handlers fully expected an indictment, and in an attempt to get in front of it, they arranged for Kelly to give a long interview to journalist Ed Gordon for BET Tonight. They intended the conversation to be the opening salvo of an aggressive campaign to minimize the damage to an incredibly lucrative career. By 2019, Kelly would prove to have earned nearly $250 million for himself and a full $1 billion for Jive Records, according to a source who knew the finances. Derrel McDavid, Kelly's accountant turned manager, followed the advice of Los Angeles attorney Gerald Margolis and executives at Jive, not only to retain a top-flight criminal defense attorney in Chicago, but to hire publicist Alan Mayer as well. The public relations battle would be as important as the legal fight, and Variety described Mayer as Hollywood's most prominent crisis specialist. He had even co-authored a book on how to handle celebrity scandals. Spin, How to Turn the Power of the Press to Your Advantage. In his first big job for Kelly, he prepped the singer for the interview with Gordon, who'd been chosen for the exclusive because he'd be tough but fair. Kelly had trouble reading the notes Mayer prepared for him, so he walked the singer through them verbally. Like a lot of people with a disability, they compensate in other ways, Mayer told me. He had an amazing memory. During the interview, which first aired on May 8, 2002, Kelly sat across from Gordon in a luxurious suite in a downtown Chicago hotel. Hair neatly braided, beard trimmed, and eyes clear and sharp, Kelly wore a striped charcoal suit jacket over a black sweater vest and a white t-shirt. He looked unnaturally cool for a man risking 15 years in prison and the destruction of everything he'd spent many of his 35 years building. For part of the interview, the Reverend James Meeks joined Gordon and Kelly. Introduced as the singer's spiritual advisor, Meeks served as pastor of Salem Baptist Church in the South Side's Pullman neighborhood. He was also second in command to the Reverend Jesse Jackson in the Black community's activist Rainbow Push Coalition. In America, we're innocent until proven guilty, Meeks said. Rob hasn't been convicted of anything. Rob hasn't been charged of anything. But, Ed, I would want the record to read that if he had been convicted and charged, God still has an umbrella big enough for all of us to fit under. Kelly said Meeks supported him while he sought help for a problem he never specified. I've done a lot of things in my life right now that I'm trying to get help for. 2 of his handlers told me they forced him to take medication to curb his sex drive. His attorney, Ed Jensen, later confirmed that, saying, I had him go to a doctor to get shots, libido-killing shots, and he talked to a professional about his sexual addiction and compulsion to pursue young girls. Kelly saw Dr. Carl Bell, director of public and community psychiatry at the University of Illinois, and one of the most respected therapists in Chicago's Black community. Not surprising, given patient confidentiality, Dr. Bell declined to speak to me. Kelly perfectly parroted Mayer's talking points for most of the interview. The singer said he was no angel, but I'm not a monster. He asked fans to have faith in him and to focus on my music. Yes, he admitted he had been thinking a lot about the impact of all of this on his family. I'm very concerned about my career, but most of all, I'm concerned about my life. I'm trying to protect my life right now. Then Gordon asked about Aaliyah. It has nothing to do with this, Kelly said, his face registering pain and loss. He seemed on the verge of tears. I really don't think it's fair to say anything about Aaliyah. Aaliyah had released her 3rd album in July 2001, a self-titled disc that found her once again working with Timbaland, as well as several new producers. That August, she had traveled to the Bahamas to shoot a video for the single Rock the Boat. The morning after completing her scenes, She boarded a chartered Cessna 402 with 6 members of the video crew and the pilot for the return trip to Florida. The plane crashed shortly after takeoff, killing everyone on board. Aaliyah was 22. Only a few months after the accident, I had a short but emotional conversation with her mother, Diane Houghton. I gave her my condolences, and she thanked me for the reporting I'd done about Kelly, even though it included revelations about his relationship with her daughter. Everything that went wrong in her life began then, Houghton said, crying. She did not say anything more. The third and final album by Kelly's former protege shot to #1 on the Billboard Pop Albums chart and ultimately sold more than 2 million copies. Aaliyah had also made a second film, Queen of the Damned, starring as Anne Rice's vampire queen, Akasha. It opened 6 months after her death, and although it received lukewarm reviews, it became a cult classic. Kelly's handlers couldn't have been happier with the way he fielded the Aaliyah question. You're too hurt to talk about her and too respectful of her family to get into all that again, they'd advised. But another tactic backfired. When Abden and I first broke news of the tape, they began suggesting to anyone who'd listen that their client's former manager, Barry Hankerson, and an artist who'd split from him, Sparkle, were using it to blackmail him. At the Olympics, Kelly himself had blamed the tape on people in the past that I've fired. His handlers suggested that Hankerson and Sparkle were angry they wouldn't be making any more money with Kelly. The star having sexual contact with the nieces they loved and other underage girls couldn't possibly have been a motive to make the tape public. Instead, it was all about money. The operative theory by people around Rob, one of Kelly's handlers told me years later, was that Rob and Barry had a bad falling out over Aaliyah. But what really pushed Barry over the edge about really wanting to destroy Rob was that Aaliyah died and the guilt he felt. Even though Rob had nothing to do with that, obviously, Barry had a lot of guilt about that whole thing because he had pushed the two of them together initially. He may not have been expecting the way that it turned out, but he knew Rob pretty well. As screwed up as Rob was, and as Byzantine as all that psychology was, I think Barry's psychology is equally Byzantine. He knew that Rob was enormously talented and that he was a real meal ticket, and he had a sense that Aaliyah had it too. He put them together, and yeah, don't worry about that other stuff. When the BET interview touched on this alleged conspiracy to blackmail and bring him down, Kelly shifted uneasily in his chair, caught off guard and unprepared. You had said that you believe that there is a smear campaign out against you, Gordon began, that you think people are out to get you. Who is they? Well, I'm going to be very honest. Now Kelly talked quickly and stumbled over his words. I know a lot of things that, unfortunately, I just can't discuss because I can't get on TV claiming this person or that person. I just can't say names and who's doing this to me. You have in the past mentioned your former agent, though, Gordon said, referring to Hankerson, Kelly's ex-manager. Yes, I have, Kelly said. He began fidgeting nervously with his hands and blinking a lot. Gordon named him, Barry Hankerson, and your suggestion is that he was behind some of this. Do you believe that he is behind any of this smear campaign? Well, you know what? That's something I have to let my lawyers handle, Kelly said. He looked frightened. My lawyers are handling that, you know, and looking into that. And unfortunately, man, like I say, I'm biting my teeth here. I wish that I could say a lot of things because I owe it to my fans. That's why I'm here. I owe it to people. I owe it to my family and myself to be here. And I'm making a big step to be here and talk about this. It's just that I'm doing it with a hand behind my back. I can't say a lot of things, unfortunately, and I apologize for that. But you know, I hope that people understand how the legal thing goes, especially when you're a celebrity. The first thing they do is tell you, you can't say anything. I'm not even supposed to be here talking about it. But I just feel I have to say something. Gordon didn't stop. I mentioned Barry Hankerson only in the sense that you had mentioned him publicly before. There's been word that an old protege, the interviewer was about to name Sparkle, when Kelly nervously interjected. "I never said Barry Hankerson." "You tell me if you said this," Gordon said. He proceeded to read part of a quote from a radio interview Kelly had given, which actually didn't name Hankerson. Gordon, quoting from Kelly's own interview, read, "I've got an ex-manager on my back. People are trying to make money off my music and my name in a very, very negative way. I've been blackmailed for the last 4 years. I didn't give in. I'm still not going to give in. A lot of people are very jealous of me and they're trying to destroy me." Gordon looked up from the transcript he'd just read and stared at Kelly. "Did you not mean Barry Hankerson there?" "Well, like I said, because of this legal thing, I can't just name names," Kelly said. He had started to sweat. "I've had a lot of managers in the past, but right now I can't. I can't say this man's name. I wish I could. Believe me, I wish that I could. The human, just the regular guy, Robert, wants to. But if I'm paying lawyers to clear this and make sure I'm okay and all that, then I have to follow some advice." Less than a month later, on the afternoon of June 4, State's Attorney Dick Devine told Sun-Times editor Michael Cook that indictments against Kelly would be announced the following day. Abden and I broke the scoop that morning, scoring for the first time the prime place on page 1, or the wood in newspaper jargon, antiquated even then. The indictment charged Kelly with 21 counts of making child pornography, 7 counts of videotaping each specific sex act, 7 counts of producing the video for each specific sex act, and 7 counts of soliciting an underage partner for each specific sex act. He faced a prison term of up to 15 years and a fine of $100,000 if convicted. While police and other family members who were cooperating with the investigation grew impatient for prosecutors to charge Kelly, the Cook County State's Attorney's Office took months, it said, trying to make sure it had an ironclad case, Abden wrote. Prosecutors were haunted by a case 14 years ago when they had a similarly uncooperative witness who had been taped having sex with a man when she was underage. This was before the Mel Reynolds case. Prosecutors charged him anyway, and he was acquitted. Abden and I attended the standing room only press conference on the afternoon of June 5 at CPD headquarters, 3510 South Michigan Avenue. Top city and state law enforcement officials crowded the podium, and after Chicago Police Superintendent Terry Hillard introduced them all, he said he wanted to provide some background. "We're here today to announce the indictment of Chicago-based singer Robert Kelly. Back in February, the Chicago Sun-Times contacted the Chicago Police Department to tell us of a tape they received that features R. Kelly performing sex acts with a minor. The Sun-Times provided a copy of the tape to us." Sitting at the left end of the 4th row, Abden and I winced. We'd been hoping the lead would be that a video provided evidence leading to an indictment after a long police investigation of Kelly's sexual contact with underage girls. "Fuck," Abden whispered. "They're making this about us." They also were making it all about one teenage girl on one videotape, with nothing about the pattern of behavior we'd reported. "It's unfortunate to see Mr. Kelly's talents go to waste, but make no mistake, these acts are serious crimes," Superintendent Hillard said. "Anyone who is selling this tape, as well as anyone who has purchased it, is now in possession of child pornography. It would be my advice to dispose of these tapes. Like the earlier videotapes, bootleg copies of this one, with Rashona, had begun to appear for sale on the streets." State's Attorney Dick Devine said the tape had been authenticated by the FBI Crime Lab in Quantico, Virginia, and experts there concluded it was not a forgery. Sexual predators are a scourge on society. This indictment should send a clear message that illicit acts with minor children will not be tolerated in the community. At the start of the press conference, an aide from Devine's office had handed a 2-page press release and a copy of the 24-page indictment to every reporter. Abden and I couldn't believe it, but Rashona Landfair's name had not been redacted. The names of underage victims and rape victims of any age almost always are withheld by law enforcement. Another reporter pointed out the error. and the panicked aide collected all the documents she'd just distributed, then rushed to make new copies with Rashona's name crossed out with a black marker. I wondered if that would have happened with the name of a white girl from Lakeview or the North Shore suburbs. As soon as we see Mr. Kelly, he'll be placed in handcuffs. We're not going to treat R. Kelly any different than anybody else, Chicago Chief of Detectives Phil Klein said. He announced that a warrant had been issued that morning for the star's arrest. Then the officials took questions, most of them fielded by Lieutenant Robert Hargesheimer, head of the Special Investigations Unit. Many of the questions from our fellow journalists, who hadn't seen the tape, centered on what it showed. We're not going to comment on that, came the reply again and again. The same response greeted queries about whether the 14-year-old victim was cooperating in the investigation. After 10 minutes, I couldn't keep quiet, though Abden elbowed me that I shouldn't say anything to tip off our competitors. We can ask later. Ignoring him, and with my Sony Pressman cassette recorder rolling, I asked if anyone at the podium knew whether the girl and her family had signed a non-disclosure agreement with Kelly. I am not aware of that, Lieutenant Hargesheimer said. I said the Sun-Times had reported that Kelly was accused of statutory rape in 3 civil lawsuits by underage girls, that he'd settled those claims by paying the girls in exchange for non-disclosure agreements, and that he'd married Aaliyah under a falsified Cook County marriage certificate when she was underage. Was the state looking into the possibility of charges in those cases? Our investigation, what we're talking about today, deals with the tape, Hargesheimer said. Now, Abden piped up. In the general law, is it harder to prove a sex crimes charge than a child pornography charge? State's Attorney Devine replied that it depends on the evidence that we have. We take each case as it comes. I posed the last question before the press conference ended. Given that the tape was widely available for sale across the country, did Kelly face federal charges? I asked. Devine grinned and said, you'd have to ask the U.S. Attorney about that. Abden did, several times in the coming weeks, and a spokesperson for U.S. Attorney Patrick Fitzgerald declined to comment. In the years since, I have heard that federal authorities wanted to take over the case, but Illinois prosecutors did not want to cede it to them. Abden and I rushed back to the newsroom, where Don Hayner already had 3 of our colleagues working on sidebars. Annie Sweeney wrote a story headlined, Tower Records Pulls Kelly Porn Tapes. They had still been selling the one I bought there on DVD, R. Kelly Bump and Grind, You Be the Judge, which showed the scenes with Montina Woods and the other partner neither we nor law enforcement ever identified. The retail chain was not selling the Rashona tape. Another story led with, the Reverend Jesse Jackson warned Wednesday against rushing to judgment against R. Kelly. The famous activist told reporter Julie Patel, there are other greater issues in the world. Mary Houlihan interviewed people in the street, quoting 3 women and 1 man who said they weren't surprised by the charges. She also talked to programmers at Chicago radio stations. Dance pop-oriented B96 FM pulled Kelly's music from its playlist, but the station only played his big pop hits, and he didn't have a new one at the moment. The 3 top R&B stations kept the singer in heavy rotation. He's innocent until proven guilty, said Marv Dyson, general manager of both WGCI and V103. Over the past 2 days, at my editor's request, I'd written a contextual story on famous cases of pop stars and underage girls. These included Elvis Presley and his 14-year-old bride, Priscilla Beaulieu, Jerry Lee Lewis and his 13-year-old second cousin and third wife, Myra Gale Brown, Led Zeppelin's Jimmy Page, who first had sexual contact with Laurie Maddox when she was 14, and Marvin Gaye, who met Janice Hunter when she was 17 and married her after divorcing his first wife, Anna Gordy. Hunter later claimed Gaye abused her and forced her to participate in threesomes against her will. None of the infamous cases charted in my story can be excused, and there are plenty of others, but Kelly's behavior was of a different magnitude. Quote, The groupies of the Golden Age who have gone on to write their autobiographies and become famous are pretty different than a 14-year-old girl who is being urinated on by a 35-year-old man, then New York Times music critic Ann Powers told me. And the girl on the tape was not the only one Abden and I had written about. After the press conference, I started writing the main story about the indictments for page 1, while Abden made calls to nail down the details of an AP News alert. Kelly had been arrested in Polk County, Florida, shortly after 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. In addition to the new mansion he owned in Olympia Fields, Kelly rented 2 vacation homes in Davenport, Florida, 35 miles southwest of Orlando. He used one of the houses as a recording studio and hangout for his crew, while the second was home for his wife, Andrea, their children, and their nanny. Andrea was in the hospital, having just given birth to the couple's 3rd child, a son named Robert Jr. When Lieutenant Hargesheimer advised Florida officers of the warrant for Kelly's arrest, Polk County Sheriff's deputies immediately went to the addresses in Davenport. They arrested him without incident while he sat in a van outside one of the houses. Deputies then led him in plastic zip cuffs to a substation in Winter Haven, where 15 fans had gathered. "We love you, R. Kelly," they shouted as reporters and photographers moved in. "I love you," Kelly said. He turned to the media. "Not right now, guys." He arrived wearing white Nike gym shoes, a blue Nike sweatshirt, blue sweatpants, and a denim bucket hat, Abden noted. The arrest made headlines worldwide. Most of the stories reported that Kelly had been in Florida with his wife and children, the first time his family garnered widespread mention in the media. The AP talked to some of the neighbors in Davenport, who said Kelly hadn't caused any problems, but full-time residents disliked anyone who rented rather than owned. "Next time, is it going to be a terrorist they let in here?" one homeowner asked. Abden emailed me another paragraph of color, as my features writing class in journalism school called it. Kelly was issued the standard orange jail jumpsuit and placed in a private cell. He arrived too late for the 4:30 p.m. dinner. I just finished adding that to our story when Hayner told us Ed Jensen, the Star's new high-powered criminal defense attorney, had just called his second press conference of the day. Jensen had not informed anyone from our paper about the first session, held not long after law enforcement's presser at police headquarters. We later read in the Trib that the first time he met with reporters to assert Kelly's innocence, Jensen angrily vowed, "I'll talk about the Sun-Times another day soon." The copy desk extended our deadline, and Abden and I hurried to Jensen's office in the Monadnock building, an ornate 16-story tower in the Loop designed by celebrated architects Daniel Burnham and John Root. Jensen's dark, wood-paneled office had already filled with reporters when we arrived. The 60-year-old attorney directed camera crews where to stand, while he repositioned photos of his family on his desk to ensure they'd be seen on television. A source in the Kelly camp later told me the lawyer charged the singer $750 an hour. Portly, bearded, and bespectacled, with a famous mop of unruly, sandy blonde hair, Jensen was called a mob lawyer by everyone on the Chicago legal scene. He embraced that description, telling AP reporter Mike Robinson, "I have no aversion to organized crime." Jensen masked a quick intellect and a killer instinct with a bumbling, disheveled persona, evoking Dostoevsky's Porfiry Petrovich and Peter Falk's Columbo. Suffering from dystonia, a neurological disorder, he sometimes rode a motorized scooter and sometimes limped with a cane. The cane now sat front and center, propped against his desk. He told an interviewer years ago he deliberately used his disability to make jurors feel sorry for him, Robinson wrote. Now he says he didn't really mean it. Raised in Chicago courtrooms, where his father worked as a bail bondsman, Jensen defended crooked politicians in addition to mobsters, but he said he tried to avoid sexual misconduct cases. "I just don't like to be in a case where I have to cross-examine a woman victim," he said. I feel bad for them. He and his close friend, Sam Adams Sr., had nevertheless defended Representative Mel Reynolds when the congressman was tried for having sexual contact with an underage campaign worker. Reynolds was convicted, and Abdon thought that debacle would have dissuaded Kelly, but the singer had hired Jensen and Adams Sr. as soon as he learned indictments were coming. Jensen thought he'd struck a gentleman's agreement with the state for how his new famous client would turn himself in. When the cameras started rolling, he railed about what he called the grave injustice of Kelly being arrested in front of his home while his wife and children watched. Apparently, even Jensen didn't know Andrea was in the hospital with a newborn. 35 years, and I've never had a state's attorney do this when you offered to bring somebody in. We're talking about a child pornography case where the person they're alleging is the victim of the child pornography says it didn't happen. I've never had an agreement like this breached. I don't know whether it's his race, I don't know whether it's his celebrity, but we were double-crossed. I asked Jensen if he was saying the girl on the tape told the grand jury it wasn't her. The law requires that grand jury testimony remain secret, and he backtracked. For the first time, I know who the victim is, and she said it didn't happen. I reminded him that Abdon had been asking him if Kelly had sexual contact with the victim for several weeks. I've been reticent to talk about it because I didn't think it was appropriate, Jensen said, changing the subject. I'm not the one who put the victim's name in the indictment. They did. It's illegal as I understand it. Had the girl signed a non-disclosure agreement with Kelly? I asked. No, I don't even know what that is. Jensen ranted some more about the state not honoring the deal he thought he'd struck for Kelly to turn himself in, and he protested the steep bond of $750,000. Any ordinary person indicted for child pornography would have been freed on a $100 bond or a $200 bond. I remember thinking, what kind of ordinary person is indicted for child pornography? But I didn't pose that question. Before the gentleman's agreement fell apart, Jensen said, Kelly's spiritual advisor, the Reverend James Meeks, planned to drive the singer back to Chicago because he hated to fly. Abdon and I hadn't known about Kelly's aviophobia before this. I asked for clarification, since the Sun-Times had reported that Kelly flew to Florida after the wedding with Aaliyah. Jensen erupted. Stop playing these games. Look, I'm a criminal lawyer. I'm not a press relations person. You write your column about music. I'm talking about a criminal case and people who misrepresented themselves to me. As a matter of fact, and this is really going to kill you, I'm 60 years old and I have no idea who Aaliyah is. Let's talk about this case. She denies she was on the tape and denies she ever had sex with him. Wow, I didn't know you could be such an asshole at press conferences, Abdon said as we cabbed back to the Sun-Times. I told him I'd had a lot of experience back in Jersey. Kelly spent the night of June 5 in jail in Bartow, Florida, and Jensen flew there to represent the singer in a Polk County courtroom the next afternoon. The star was led into court in an orange jail uniform, hands cuffed and moist eyes downcast. Judge Carla Foreman Wright agreed to let him return to Chicago on his own recognizance, but warned, you're not to have contact with minor children not related by blood or marriage. Do you understand? Kelly quietly answered, yes, ma'am. Early the next morning, he and Jensen flew into Midway Airport on the south side aboard a rented private jet, then climbed into a silver Lexus. The luxury SUV pulled up to the Cook County Criminal Court building at West 26th Street and South California Avenue, part of the sprawling legal complex that also includes Cook County Jail, and which most Chicago reporters, prosecutors, criminal defense attorneys, and their regular clients simply call 26th and Cal. When Kelly emerged from the Lexus in front of the waiting crowd of press, Detective Dan Everett of the Special Investigations Unit read the singer his rights, placed him in cuffs for the second time in 24 hours, and put him in the back of an unmarked squad car. Before he could post bail, Kelly had to be fingerprinted and photographed. He was taken to CPD's Marquette District Headquarters, one of the police department's Hill Street Blues era relics from 1926, Abdon wrote, with marble stairs, mosaic hexagonal tiles, and not enough space for a celebrity, his legal team, his spiritual advisor, his spiritual advisor's driver, and dozens of reporters and cameramen. Kelly then returned to the courthouse to appear before a judge for his release on $750,000 bond. He paid with $750 $100 bills. Kelly smiled on his way out of court and told reporters he looked forward to proving his innocence. Standing at his side, Reverend Meeks said he was counseling and praying with the singer. They discussed, quote, turning the direction of his music around, looking at other themes other than sex, Meeks said. Then they climbed into the silver Lexus and drove to Salem Baptist Church in the Pullman neighborhood. There, Kelly sang for 50 children and their parents at a kindergarten graduation ceremony. Apparently, the Chicago Tribune reported, the no associating with minors stipulation applied to the Florida bond only. The star continued singing over the next few weeks, hunkering down at Chicago tracks. In early July, Jive Records rush released a single, Heaven I Need a Hug, after Kelly first gave it exclusively to WGCI. Elroy Smith, the station's program director, told me that within 90 minutes of the first airing, it became the station's most requested song. The lyrics take the form of a letter to Kelly's dead mother, Joanne. Ever since you left, your baby boy's been dealing with problem after problem. Tell me, what am I supposed to do? Over a mid-tempo groove with lush orchestration and a guitar part credited to Rashona's father, Greg Lanfair. After playing on 3 of Kelly's albums, this would be his last named appearance on the singer's recordings. Kelly takes aim at disloyal former associates and the press. Get rid of them clowns and get myself a whole nother crew. Media, do your job, but please just don't make my job so hard. Finally, he builds to a climactic finale, repeated 3 times. Heaven, I need a hug. Is there anybody out there willing to embrace a thug? Feeling like a change of heart, and all I really need is a sign or a word from God. So shower down on me, wet me with your love. Given the most notorious scene in the videotape, the so-called golden shower that became fodder for jokes and gossip soon after Abden and I first reported on it, the last line of the song seemed bizarre. I know Robert, and he knows exactly what he's doing, a former associate told me. He's smarter than everybody thinks, and what he's doing is, he's fucking with all of us.
Hey, Candy. Yes, so this is Jim's book, Chapter 7, Go to Your Mailbox. Guess what, guys? Something came in, and it's about Larry. It's about Larry. Okay, so I'm going to read this first. It's only 7 pages long. So remember that the government needed to respond to Bonjean's motion to compel evidence, right? And that was to find out if Larry was an informant and if he wound up getting leniency on his case due to working as an informant for the government to help the government with Larry McGee, right? Well, let's read it, y'all. Government's response to motion to compel regarding the DOJ, the OIG investigation, and Larry McGee. So this is all about the Tasha K and Larry McGee situation, right? And the BOP person who used to work for the one of the officers that worked in the prison at the MCC. The United States of America, by its attorney, John R. Lausch, Jr., United States Attorney for the Northern District of Illinois, respectfully submits the following response to Defendant Kelly's motion to compel regarding materials from a DOJ OIG investigation and communications with Larry McGee. As we know, R242. For the reasons stated below, defendant's motion should be denied. Okay. The background is that on or about November 22nd of 2019, the Federal Bureau of Prisons staff at the Metropolitan Corrections Center, the MCC, became aware that a YouTube blogger known as Tasha K revealed information relating to Kelly's prison visits and communications with his girlfriends while he was being housed at the MCC. Example A to defendant's motion affidavit at 3. Agents from the Department of Justice, Office of the Inspector General, which is the OIG, began investigating and searched the internet to obtain further information about what Tasha K disseminated on YouTube and other social media platforms. OIG learned between November 7th of 2019 and January 12th of 2020, Tasha K posted or discussed the following information on social media platforms. 1. A photograph that depicted Kelly's visitation list. 2. Content from a phone call involving Kelly and 2 women with whom he was in a romantic relationship at the time. And 3. Emails between Kelly and one of those women dated November 11th, 2019 and November 14, 2019. So the OIG also collected materials from the BOP, namely BOP True View, which is a system logs that indicate the date and time that a BOP employee accessed records from the system, as well as the identity of the inmates whose records were whose records were accessed. 3. These logs show which inmates' records a BOP employee accessed, but do not provide further specificity regarding which records within that inmate's file were accessed. The OIG reviewed system logs for the period from July 15 of 2019 through January 8th, 2020. And they also learned that 60 BOP employees accessed Kelly's True View records. The BOP employee officer A accessed Kelly's records during that period, but Officer A was not assigned to the MCC and thus was not authorized to access Kelly's records during that period. So the OIG obtained Officer A's personal file. OIG also reviewed a subset of email communications that Officer A sent or received from Officer A's official BOP email address, which existed on the BOP network. OIG compared the date, time, and contents of the information regarding Kelly that Tasha K disclosed with True View logs and emails from Officer A's BOP email account and determined that Officer A accessed Kelly's inmate records on or around those same dates and times. Now, the TrueView system is an application that contains information on inmates, including inmate emails, inmate telephone numbers, inmate visitation lists, and inmate funds. So that's the system they got into, the TrueView system. So the BOP officer, Officer A, wound up getting into that file into that system, the TrueView system, and got into R. Kelly's file and accessed his emails, his telephone calls, his visitation list, and his funds. Now, those same dates and times, on or about February 27th of 2020, OIG, in connection with the United States Attorney's Office, applied for and obtained a warrant to search Officer A's desktop computer for the material identified in the search warrant attachment. See attachment B. Now, Kelly now requests this court to order the government to disclose to him specified information from the OIG separate investigation. Now, this information, however, is sensitive and unrelated to the instant case. Now, the requested information includes the following: Officer A's personnel file, the BOP TrueView system logs reflecting access data and employee information of at least 59 BOP employees, none of whom are suspected of disclosing Kelly's information. Email communication that Officer A sent or received from Officer A's official BOP email address, and materials resulting from the search of Officer A's BOP computer. Now, Kelly claims, without support, that all the materials OIG collected during its investigation likely constitutes Brady information. Kelly does not cite a single supporting case, and he does not identify how this information is relevant to allegations at issue in this case, such as his alleged sexual abuse of minor girls in the 1990s and the alleged cover-up that followed. Kelly's motion, tethered only by Kelly's unsubstantiated speculation to this case, should be denied. The argument is that Kelly argues that he is entitled OIG's investigative materials because the information that Tasha K disclosed about him was apparently shared with a supposed government cooperator named Larry McGee. With a supposed government cooperator named Larry McGee. The government has a duty to disclose any information in its possession that is favorable to the defense and material either to guilt or punishment. Brady versus Maryland, 373 U.S. 8388, 1963. So information favorable to the defense includes evidence which would tend to exculpate the defendant or reduce the penalty at 87, and evidence regarding the reliability and credibility of a government witness. See Giglio versus United States, 405 U.S. 150, 154, 155, 1972. But here, Kelly's speculative and deficient claims do not fall within these parameters. Like I said, this was a waste of paper, ink, time, brain cells, and everything else. Kelly claims that an individual named Larry McGee received Kelly's visitation list, phone calls, or emails with his girlfriends. But this is pure conjecture. Kelly fails to provide any confirmation of when or how Mr. McGee received any of Kelly's information or what specific information Mr. McGee allegedly received. So, moreover, even if Mr. McGee had received such material, Kelly fails to articulate how Kelly's visitation list or phone calls constitute as Brady material that would tend to exculpate him. But in any event, Kelly knows who visited him and with whom he talked on the telephone, and as such, the information is already in his possession. See Carvajal versus Dominguez. That's a case law. And it talks about suppression of exculpatory or impeaching evidence required to be disclosed to defendant pursuant to Brady does not occur when the defendant could have discovered it himself through reasonable diligence, internal markings omitted. So, Bonjean, you could have done this work yourself. Girl. Kelly speculates, like I said, y'all want to do this? This is a whole separate case. This has nothing to do with this case. You want to investigate that? That's a whole nother case. So Kelly speculates that Mr. McGee has provided cooperation in the instant case because Kelly claims that McGee has publicly bragged about providing government assistance, and McGee himself has publicly taken credit for turning various witnesses into government witnesses in Kelly's prosecutions. Now, Mr. McGee has not before and is not now cooperating in the instant case. Got it, Bonjean? Again, let me repeat that for those slow people in the back. Flower pot lady, Sharon Wimbush, bring your ass over here. Girl, come over here. Sharon Wimbush, please step down, flower pot. Come on, baby girl. Come over here. I want you to come over here so I can read this. Come on. I know you got to be in my bushes. Come on, girl. If not, somebody go get her. Somebody, please, for me, go get Sharon Wimbush. Please go get Sharon Wimbush. Please go get Sharon Wimbush. We need Sharon Wimbush up in here. Sharon! You in here, Sharon? Sharon! Come on, Sharon. I know you can come in. Come on, girl. You got big balls. You a big balls kind of bitch. Come over here. Step on down. Come on, girl. I know you could do it. I know you can, mamita. I know you can. Unless, your nose is a little too clogged because your brain is fogged. Yeah, no. Stop skiing, girl. You'll be all right. I'm going to read this paragraph all over again. Kelly speculates that Mr. McGee has provided cooperation in the instant case because Kelly claims McGee has publicly bragged about providing government assistance. And McGee himself has publicly taken credit for turning various witnesses into government witnesses in Kelly's prosecutions. This is what Mr. Kelly speculates, right? This is what he thinks, because Sharon Wimbush, dumb knucklehead, dumb, slow bitch, sit in the back, bitch, shut the fuck up, bitch, leave us the fuck alone, bitch, right, decided to put a bug in R. Kelly's ear, okay? Leave R. Kelly the fuck alone. You people are the ones that are fucking up his case. You fucking stupid, dumb, or slow. It's not us. We're not doing anything to harm his case. And we're not even for him. It's you, motherfuckers. All of you stupid asses. From Bedbug all the way to Shrek. All you motherfuckers in between, you dumb asses. All of yous are dumb. Including Don Russell. Richard Arline. And he was a victim. Come on now. All of y'all that did some dumb shit and were complicit, y'all stupid. Yous are all complicit in helping your king go down. It's not us. It's you motherfuckers. Y'all motherfuckers need to take a check. A good look at yourself. Take a check. Check. 7 more days, y'all. 7 more days and he's going down. Period. Now, Mr. McGee has not before and is not now cooperating in the instant case. Therefore, leave Larry the fuck alone. Period. Sharon, DJ, and everybody motherfucking else. Leave him the fuck alone. Larry ain't do nothing but bring commentary. All his information came from Angelo. Some of his information came from people that he connected with in R. Kelly's camp. Also, he connected with some of these victims. That's where his information came from. A lot of his information when he first came out came from Pacer. A lot of you were like, how does he know all these things? Oh my God. What is he working with the government? What is he doing? Oh my goodness. How does he know all this shit? You stupid asses. And he's like, y'all dumb. You know what? Go get yourself a fucking Pacer. Go get yourself a Pacer. I know I did. I was like, that's how he know all that shit? Let me. Right away. I got myself a Pacer. Look at me now. Woo! I know so much shit. Woo! I'm intelligent. I'm full of R. Kelly knowledge. It's a shame that I gotta be full of this shit. But goddamn, I'm glad that I could give you the information. Okay? Black and white as the case progresses. Okay? Yeah. Groupies. You know what? Let me hold on. Yeah. You know what I'm about to do, y'all. Seriously. Yeah. So let's leave Larry McGee alone and let him do his commentary the way he does it. He's the greatest of all time. A straight GOAT. That's what it is. Stop hating on him because he knows more than you. Ha ha. And he wasn't even there. And he wasn't even there. And he knows more than a lot of you sucker asses. Stupid asses. Sharon Wimbush, sit the fuck down. You deserve the sit the fuck down award, girl. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Mr. McGee will not be called by the government as a witness in this case. The government has not interviewed him in connection with this case. The prosecution team in the instant case is not privy to whatever cooperation Mr. McGee has provided in other federal cases in other districts. The screenshot Kelly includes in his motion from what appears to be a social media site does not establish that Mr. McGee cooperated in the instant case. The screenshot shows a January 2020 email exchange. Mr. McGee emailed a USA Angel Cruel a message, which the screenshot does not contain. And Miss Cruel responded, "Thank you for sending this." The screenshot includes entries from the Green Man Show, and it's supposed to be Grown Man Show. The government is aware of one of the emails from the sender, the Grown Man Show, in Kelly's screenshot. The email is an unsolicited message regarding material that is not relevant to nor at issue in this case. Specifically, in the email, the sender posts screenshots of posts from a Kelly supporters blog discussing how others can support Kelly on social media. The email exchange does not establish that Mr. McGee provided substantive information to the prosecution team. Now, in the footnote, it says that defendant incorrectly claims that the email exchange in January 2020 occurred during the exact time period during which defendant's private communications and telephone calls were stolen by a BOP officer. However, as noted in the affidavit attached to Kelly's motion, Officer A retired in December of 2019, and the investigation revealed that Officer A accessed defendant's records in November and December of 2019. In any event, Kelly fails to provide any facts which show that Officer A communicated with Mr. McGee or that either of them had any communications with a witness in this case. Lord. Sharon, stop skiing, girl. Girl, you be up all night repeating videos, repeating. Girl, we know you a cokehead already. Sit down. We know this already. You be skiing. Girl, you need to take a break. Let your brain breathe. You can't think straight. And I can't even believe Bonjean went with this bullshit. I cannot. Disappointing. Kelly also makes vague references in his motion to Officer A influencing witness testimony, But Kelly does not identify how, where, when, or what government witness, in this case, Officer A, allegedly influenced. Officer A is not a witness in this case. Kelly misstates in his motion the contents of the affidavit submitted in support of the search warrant for Officer A's BOP computer. For example, Kelly, purportedly quoting the affidavit, states in his motion that the OIG investigation was opened to investigate the potential crimes of bribery, fraud, theft, narcotics trafficking, money laundering, ethics violation, and other official misconduct. But the affidavit language Kelly refers is in the section describing the affiant's training and experience about the types of cases he investigates, not the crimes under investigation by the OIG. Kelly also states in his motion that the investigation revealed that Officer A sold information to Tasha K. The affidavit, however, does not conclude, let alone mention, that Officer A sold anything to anyone. Let me go to the footnote before I go to the conclusion. Now, footnotes 3, 4 say that the prosecution team received, over time, approximately 10 emails from Mr. McGee. Okay? Okay? Listen very carefully, guys. The prosecution team received, over time, okay, approximately 10 emails from Mr. McGee. So the emails generally conveyed that Kelly's supporters were harassing Mr. McGee or others. The listed recipients on the emails included multiple groups and agencies in addition to the prosecution team in the instant case. Footnote number 4. Now, pursuant to the court's order on June 1st of 2022, on June 14th, 2022, the government provided defendant with a response to his first motion for production of investigative materials. Now, in its letter to defendant, enclosing the affidavit discussed above. Now, the government stated the following. The government reviewed the materials collected by the DOG, the OIG, pursuant to its investigation into a manner separate from this case. Now, the investigative materials, the government did not observe any discoverable material within the investigative materials. Specifically, the investigative materials did not contain any Rule 16 Giglio, Brady, or Jenks Acts 3500 material related to this case. So further, there is no indication from the investigative materials that, 1, defendant Kelly's attorney-client communications were provided to a YouTube blogger named Tasha K, or to anyone, or 2, that any of defendant Kelly's communications were shared with government witnesses or with an alleged government informant who was under federal indictment at the time the information was stolen. The government also stated that as it relates to this case, the government is not aware of any such government informant under federal indictment. Additionally, the government stated that Officer A and Tasha K are not government witnesses in this case. Conclusion. Kelly's motion to compel fails to provide credible support for releasing to Kelly all information obtained during a separate OIG investigation about a BOP employee. As noted, the government has reviewed this material and, in keeping with its Brady and Giglio obligations, determined that the material did not contain information subject to production in this case The government requests that Kelly's motion to compel be denied. Yeah, crazy people. Yep, that's what they are. Yep. Hold on. Shit, I think I just closed another one. I did it again. Okay, so we read this one. Let me get that one out of the way. Okay, 262, 261, 260. Okay. Now wait. Yeah, see? Oh, shoot. All right, give me a second, guys. Yeah, okay. All right, give me a second here, guys. I gotta find the paperwork. I just like okay. That's one. That's the other one. Okay, so I need to go back here. Hey, this one here. That's the one I just read. I don't know which one it is now. Yeah. Okay. All right, guys. I found it. All right. So now, thank you for the Cash App, whoever just sent it to me. So what's up, Papi? What's up, grown little boy? Papi, I'm gonna drop the link for you. Want to come up real quick? Hold on. We got good news, baby. You have been cleared. You have been cleared, brother. Hold on. Let me get that copied. Okay. If anybody wants to come up on the panel, you can. I'm gonna drop the link, okay? Hey, Ronnie. Hey, information man. What's up, baby? Rocking with the truth. I love you. Grown little boy, come on up, puppy, if you're still in here. If you got time and you want to come up. Right, rocking with the truth. Eggs in her face. Eggs in her face. Like, what? Girl, go sit down. Exactly, information man. Wow. These people are crazy, yo. These supporters are crazy. They are doing everything in their power to mess up their king of kids case. They really are. They're not letting the lawyers do their job. I mean, it's the dumbest shit I've ever seen in my life. Ever. Well, all right. So nobody wants to come in. Let me. Okay, let me go to. All right, espérate. That's 260. All right, 261. I'm gonna do that one tomorrow because it's kind of long, and I'm also gonna do Don Russell. I also have this thing about the money, which I didn't get to do yet. I wanted to. This was something that I had found with R. Kelly's case. Okay, I don't need that one. I don't need that. That was not. I don't need that one. Oh, and also they got the government's proposed jury instructions. Okay, so that's gonna be a long one. I think I'm gonna want some readers with me. Um, all right, this one connection recent government disclosure and further motion to join defendants, motion to compel discovery. Okay, I didn't get to read this one either. Okay, the motion to compel discovery. Okay, I'm not gonna do that one. Let's get that one out of here. What is this one? Right. This one was the motion to unseal his motion. But they wanted to seal it. Yes, I wanted to read that one. And then, okay, the extended time for today. Government's motion to extend. Okay, so all right, so by later on today, the government should be responding to Derrel McDavid's motion to compel disclosure for docket number 247. Okay. So all right, so where is it's gonna be here. Wait, where the heck is the I just had the paperwork. Where is it? It's just 61. Instruction. All right, here we go. All right, so now being that we were listening to Jim's book. Hey, Bev Davis, what's up, mama? We were listening to Jim's book, right? Now, Derrel McDavid, as we know, has an issue with Jim Derogatis, right? So there was a motion filed yesterday from Derrel McDavid, and it's a motion to compel disclosure, right? Or in the alternative, exclude. So comes now defendant Derrel McDavid by and through his attorneys, Beau, Brindley, and Vadim Glozman, and hereby moves this honorable court to compel complete discovery regarding the chain of custody surrounding video 1. Which is purported to be a video received from the Cook County State's Attorney's Office, and which is purported to have been the video received from the Chicago Sun-Times on February 4th of 2002. In support, he states as follows. The 2008 trial of Robert Kelly in Cook County was repellent with dishonesty, extraordinary demands, admittedly lying witnesses, and a failure to truthfully identify video evidence used in that case, which damaged the integrity of the entire trial proceeding. Now, during the 2008 trial, the Cook County State Attorney's Office provided to the defense expert what it told the jury, through stipulation, was an accurate and exact copy of the VHS video received by Cook County State's Attorney's Office from the Chicago Sun-Times. However, it turned out that this stipulation to the jury was false. The copy provided to the defense expert was not an exact copy. Some material from the original was not present on the copy given to the defense expert. Now, therefore, the defense expert's showing of video segments to the jury, which he was told by the state came from an exact copy of the original, turned out to be from some incomplete and inaccurate version. See People versus State of Illinois versus Kelly, June 10, 2008 trial transcript, pages 158 to 169. The 2008 jury was ultimately shown segments of 2 separate videos and falsely told by the state that what they were seeing was all coming from identical copies of the original. In other words, false affirmations were made to the jury by the state about what video they were seeing. Is that really what he's complaining about? I cannot. Oh, God. When confronted by the fact that the jury was given false information by the state, Judge Vincent Gahn stated as follows: this is the thing that's in the barrel. This is the rotten tomato in the barrel, and I want some explanation about it. This is not true. ID at page 161. It is now apparent that the rotten tomato, which befouled the barrel back in 2008, continues to taint the evidence that the government now hopes to present to the jury at the upcoming federal trial. Are you kidding me? Stop. Hey, they're trying everything they can possible to get him off. And this is not going to work. I am so sorry. Insufficient chain of custody and authentication. On August 5th of 2022, counsel for Derrel McDavid went to the Homeland Security Office in Lombard, Illinois to view video 1, which the government has purported to be the video that was at issue in the 2008 trial, and which they intend to show the jury in the instant matter. Now, prior to going to view this video, both Mr. Glozman and Mr. Brindley independently advised the government that they wished to view any and all videos that were shown in the jury in 2008. Now, the contents of the video that was shown to the jury back in 2008 and which was provided to the defense back in 2008 surely had an impact on the mindset of the attorneys representing Mr. Kelly at the 2008 trial and on Mr. McDavid, who was working with those attorneys as a member of the defense team. The undersigned could not have imagined that there would be a problem identifying the videos that were admitted into evidence as exhibits during the 2008 trial. Now, the undersigned were wrong. At the August 5th, 2022 meeting, it became absolutely apparent that the government has no idea what video was actually admitted into evidence and shown to the jury in 2008. Now, they have multiple CDs that they contend are copies of the video that they got from the Cook County State's Attorney's Office. However, they have no idea whether the video they have was shown to the jury and admitted as Exhibit 1 at the 2008 trial. They have no idea whether the video they have is the accurate copy of that video, was referenced as Exhibit 78 at the trial, shown to the jury, and provided to the defense expert, the Rotten Tomato. To that end, the government could not tell Mr. McDavid's attorney what happened to the state's exhibits that were admitted at trial in 2008, nor could they tell them whether accurate copies of those exhibits were actually turned over to the government in this case or not. Now, the agents who made the copies were readily willing to admit that they have no idea which of these videos, if any, was actually the same video that the jury and defense counsel saw back in 2008 at the trial. That means that there is, based on the current chain of custody, no way to determine what video Mr. McDavid and the defense team could have actually seen back in 2008. Nor is there any way to determine if the video the government wants to admit now was actually the same video that was shown to witnesses in 2002 grand jury, about which those witnesses are expected to testify in Mr. McDavid's upcoming trial. He's trying to act like he don't know about the videos. He don't know what video is what. Which video was shown at the trial? Is it the exact tape? He's not sure if he witnessed this tape, if this is the exact correct tape, because they're saying, the government's saying that it is, and that it's on a CD in parts. They have, which they did. They have 3 videos in parts, okay, with 3 different scenes. And then they spoke about the one that is not there. And that is the one. That's what I'm saying. What are they talking about? I'm confused. Okay. 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 So if the video the government wants to admit now was actually the same video that was shown to witnesses in the 2002 grand jury, about which those witnesses are expected to testify at Mr. McDavid's upcoming trial, it is impossible to discern how the government could claim a complete chain of custody has been maintained when they do not have a clue what happened to the videos that were actually the exhibits in the 2008 trial. And they do not have any way to determine whether the videos they have are indeed the same ones that were available to the parties back in 2008. Now, the matter was made even more absurd when the agents showed the defense team a VHS videotape in an evidence bag, which they said was the video that came from the Cook County State's Attorney's Office. However, a quick review of the label on the VHS test tape said it was a copy. Yet, neither the agents who are handling this case for the government nor government counsel knows, 1, what exactly that tape is a copy of, 2, who in Cook County made the copy, 3, whether the contents of that tape was ever accessible to the parties in between 2002 and 2008 or to the 2008 jury, and 4, whether it is actually a copy of the tape provided to the state by Jim Derogatis in 2002. They have no earthly idea whether the video they have is really the same one that was used in 2002 to show the grand jury witnesses. They want to show this video they have now, video 1, to witnesses and ask them if they made false statements about it to the grand jury back in 2002. But to do that, they have to be able to establish that what they have now is the same recording these witnesses saw back in 2002. The government cannot do that. This was apparent to the undersigned based on the befuddlement that defense counsel encountered when simply asking to see different versions of the tape that were referenced and admitted into evidence at the 2008 trial. It appears the government does not know whether what they have is what was shown on these 2002 witnesses or not, whether what they have was shown to the 2008 jury, or whether what they have was made available to the 2002 defense team and their expert. This is not an acceptable state of affairs in a case in which the obstruction of justice conspiracy surrounds issues related to this recording that was at the center of the 2008 trial and the 2002 grand jury. Now, the only recording that is relevant to the obstruction of justice conspiracy is the video that was received by the Sun-Times in February of 2002, provided to the state and presumably shown to the grand jury witness in 2002. And again, presumably shown to the jury at the 2008 trial. So to establish a complete chain of custody such that we can have confidence that the video they intend to show is the same video that was available to the defense and thereby to Mr. McDavid by extension in 2008 and shown to the grand jury witnesses they want to call in this case. So the government must be able to prove that the video they have is a copy of the actual video received by the Sun-Times in February of 2002, turned over to the state in 2002, shown to grand jury witnesses in 2002, made accessible to the defense prior to the 2008 trial, and shown to the jury at that trial. That recording is the one that is relevant to obstruction of justice. An entire trial in 2008 was held over the question of whether that recording was authentic and unaltered. Now, wait a minute, guys. So, the reason why McDavid is complaining is because the government said that they don't have the tape from the 2008 trial. The one that, no, that's not it. The tape that the government does not have is the tape that had Lisa Van Allen and Minor One on it. But they do have other tapes that show different parts of the house with the girl. Okay? Now, the one in the Colorado room with Minor One and Individual D is not available. Okay? So, the other 3 copies, remember in one of the motions they described it. One of the videos was him on a bed with her and some other minors, and then there was another one with her in a room that had a black and white tiles on the floor, and the other one was, I think it was in the Colorado room. And it was just him and her. Now, I don't know if that's the exact one. I believe they said that was the exact one. Okay, that was in the 2008 trial. So I'm trying to think about what they said. They said the government in the other motion has stated that the one with Lisa Van Allen and Rashana is missing. That's tape number 4. They have one of the Colorado room, one of him in the bedroom, and one of him in where the floor was black and white. Now, the one in the Colorado room, that's the one from 2008. So they have that tape, but they're only using a portion of that tape. Before we go any further, I want you guys to take a listen to this.
We are following breaking news about R&B singer R. Kelly. Attorney Michael Avenatti says he has a videotape allegedly showing Kelly engaging in graphic sex with an underage girl. Now, Avenatti claims this is a different VHS tape than the one used in another criminal case against the star in 2002. And this...
Now, you heard what that said? Let me rewind that.
We are following breaking news about R&B singer R. Kelly. Attorney Michael Avenatti says he has a videotape allegedly showing Kelly engaging in graphic sex with an underage girl. Now, Avenatti claims this is a different VHS tape than the one used in another criminal case against the star in 2002. And this newly surfaced tape has been handed over to prosecutors in Kelly's hometown of Chicago. This is in addition to an investigation already underway following an explosive Lifetime documentary that featured multiple interviews with women who say they were sexually abused by Kelly, some when they were in their teens. CNN has viewed this tape in question, and CNN's Sarah Seidner is following this for us in Los Angeles. Also here with us is CNN legal analyst and criminal defense attorney Joey Jackson. Sarah, first, what do we know? How did Avenatti get this alleged tape?
It's not something that I know, and it's not something that he is certainly revealing at this point in time. But I think what is important about this story is that this is, if everything that I have seen on this tape is accurate, and everything that I have heard on this tape is an accurate depiction, this could be potential evidence in a new case against R. Kelly. Now, we've spoken to sources on this story, and I have also viewed the tape, and I can tell you that the video is graphic, it is clear, it is in a well-lit room. There are 2 scenes to this tape. One is in what appears to be a living room, which is very bright and well-lit, and the other is in a bedroom, which is darker, but still you can certainly see the features of both of the people who are on the tape. During the tape, and it is impossible to know this girl's age, but I do want to mention that the details I'm about to share with you right now are disturbing, and so people should be forewarned before I go into just a few of the details of this 42-minute and 45-second tape. I will tell you this. You see at one point a naked man coming into the frame who appears to be R. Kelly. Our source has identified him as R. Kelly. He is seen performing multiple sex acts with a female that is on this tape. Now, the person that is on this tape, the girl on this tape, she describes the age of her genitalia. She talks about her female genitalia. She describes it as being 14 years old, not once, but at least 6 different times. And he then confirms on the tape, in his own words, the age of her genitalia. We do not know how old this girl is. We have not been able to corroborate that. What we do know, though, are the details of what is on this tape. There is also another very disturbing point at which he asks this person who has described her genitalia as 14-year-old to urinate. She does so after questioning him, and then he does the same to her. He urinates on her. Those details are important because this mirrors what happened back in 2002 in a videotape the prosecutors used to try and bring charges, and did bring charges against R. Kelly at the time. But in the 2008 trial, he was acquitted of those charges, which were 14 charges of child pornography. Where we are right now is we have spoken to his attorney, who has said he is not aware of any new evidence. He is not aware of any of these new details. He has not been contacted, nor has his client been contacted by law enforcement at this time. We have also reached out to the Cook County State's Attorney's Office, and they have told us that they cannot confirm or deny the existence of anything in any kind of investigation at this point in time. So that's where we are left at this point. But we have viewed this tape. It is disturbing, no matter how you cut it. It is very clear video that is quite different from the tape that was being sold back in the 90s and 2000s that was used in the very first trial. Anna.
Sarah, obviously very disturbing information that you're sharing with us. Please stay with me in this conversation as I bring Joey Jackson into it. Where does this case go now? How would this proceed, assuming they've turned over this tape to law enforcement officials?
So following up on Sarah's excellent report, let me say the following. Obviously, in the event that R. Kelly's guilty of any impropriety involving an underage person, he needs to be held accountable. And I'm sure that the Cooks County District Attorney's Office, in conjunction with the police department, will do just that. I would encourage, however, everyone to pause for a number of reasons, because you're going to be looking at, and defense attorneys certainly will be honing in on that tape to talk about the authenticity of the tape. We are in a day and age of technology where things can be placed upon tapes that may look one way but are quite another. I would mention, as Sarah mentioned, you look back at the 2002 issue. That's when the tape first surfaced, and then he was prosecuted and brought to court in 2008.
A tape first surfaced there. We believe this is separate.
This is a separate tape. A tape set, and I just want to draw the parallels. In that case, they thought they had him dead to rights. Different issue, different tape, different time. But of course, there was the argument made about who was on the tape. Was the person underage? Was it even R. Kelly? The reason I say that, Anna, is because I predict that the same arguments will be made here. Number one, authenticate this tape. Where did it come from? Where and when did the lawyer get it? How did it surface? Was there a chain of custody? Who had it before that? Where did it originate from? Then when you get through all of those questions, who was the woman on the tape? In the other case in 2002, they brought a number of other people in to authenticate who the individual was, because that person did not testify. We don't know in this case moving forward whether or not they have this individual, whether she's indeed underage, whether others will testify, whether she will testify, but the same arguments will be made as to whether she's underage, who is she, and whether that's R. Kelly on the tape. If they could establish that, then you know what? He's in a world of hurt, a world of trouble. But I would caution before we get there that there were 21 counts initially. Sarah said 14, and she's right, because the prosecutors had to drop 7 of those. And so where we are now is we're in a place where we need to exercise caution. But if what's on that tape is as alleged and described, then it's going to be a very problematic future moving forward for Mr. Kelly.
Joey Jackson, Sarah Seidner.
Okay. And remember, CNN were the first people to watch the tape. Avenatti went to them and showed them the tape to make breaking news. And that this was the actual event that happened back in February 14th of 2019. So allegedly, the first tape, we're hearing it, I shouldn't say allegedly, it's confirmed here by CNN that Michael Avenatti brought to them a tape, and it had 2 scenes, is what the young lady saw, was 2 scenes, and it was a 45-minute tape, but she saw 2 scenes, and in them, she described what she saw, right? So that's one tape, right? Now, was this? What was I at? Hold on. Give me a second, guys. Okay.
Prosecutors in Chicago are moving swiftly with R. Kelly. Just last week, you know that Michael Avenatti announced that he had found through months and months of investigation a tape that he believes is R. Kelly having sex, shows R. Kelly having sex with a 14-year-old. He presented that tape to the Cook County prosecutors, and they have already convened a grand jury. In fact, convened last week.
So we are told that once this tape surfaced and went over to the state's attorney in Chicago, they contacted, or some women called up and said, look, you know, when this whole surfaced, what can we do to help? And they've actually flown a couple out because what we're told is that the state's attorneys want somebody to identify the surroundings where it might have been done, and possibly even identify who the girl is.
Right.
So there were several women who were flown out and apparently watched this video, but they have swiftly taken this over to the grand jury.
Yeah,
they've moved pretty fast on this, and with the woman coming out, one of the important things that I was told was that a lot of the things in the video, like the surroundings and the different settings, only someone who's actually been in that place or has actually seen it themselves could identify it, and that's what they wanted. They needed people who've actually, you know, like been there and have seen different things to say this is that, this is the location, this is what we needed to see.
You know, Lauren, do you know? Because I don't know if Avenatti or somebody said when approximately they think this was shot.
I'm not for sure about that either.
No, the only thing
I'm not for sure about that either. But
the only thing Avenatti did say was that he was sure that it was that whenever it happened, it was within the statute of limitations.
Yeah, but what I do know is the victims who that were flown in to kind of like help to verify different things, that was recently done. I do know that was recently done. But
Also, it was a VHS tape, which might tell you something about when it may have been shot.
Yeah, that's actually a good point.
Right.
So it may be 15 years old.
Yeah, and I don't know what the statute.
It's probably a long statute for child. Yeah. Kelly's lawyer has come out and said that they're unaware of any special grand jury. They are calling the report false, but we know that there is a grand jury. We've confirmed the existence of one. So, you know, I'm not sure what they're saying is false, whether it just relates to the tape or not, but the grand jury has definitely been convened.
Hey, Charles. Hey, Harvey. This is Raven calling in from Texas. I definitely think this lawyer has his work cut out for him in representing R. Kelly. You know, all the speculation about him bribing somebody and all that, you know, I don't think it's really hard to speculate that, you know, with everything that came on TV, everything that's aired, everything that's basically going on. I really think that this time they're going to hold him accountable for his actions. I just really feel sorry for the team, and hopefully no one's actually viewing it other than the people that, you know, has to view it. Because if this gets out like last time, it's going to be everywhere, because that's how it was last time.
Hey, Raven, I'm sorry, but you kind of waved a red flag in front of me.
Oh, boy. Here we
I'm
go.
sorry, Raven, but
what is going on
Raven,
behind you?
You did it on purpose.
The Christmas tree.
Why?
After Christmas, we do Mardi Gras trees. So this is my Mardi Gras tree for the Mardi Gras season, Harvey.
What's your excuse for March?
Now, Michael Avenatti met Kim Fox at O'Hare Hotel to give her the tape. And he did a press conference. Hey, wifey. Hey, Miss. What's up, baby?
I'm going to make a brief statement, but I will not be accepting any questions. First of all, I want to thank the federal agents for their professionalism and courtesy today. They were outstanding throughout the process, and I wish to thank them for everything they did today in connection with this matter. As all of you know, for the entirety of my career, I have fought against the powerful people and powerful corporations. I will never stop fighting that good fight. I am highly confident that when all of the evidence is laid bare in connection with these cases, when it is all known, when due process occurs, that I will be fully exonerated and justice will be done. Thank you.
And Michael right here, Michael right here. From the bench, behind the bench. I know about your excuses.
This was him going to the courthouse.
Right.
Hey guys,
This is when he was released.
I promise you, we're going to straighten all this stuff out. That's all I can say right now. I promise you.
Can I hear fans? Like,
I love my fans. Kelly. What's up, man? What's going on? What's up, man? I'm good. The ball for the second time. It's just unbelievable. I feel like I met my match.
So that recording is the one that is relevant to obstruction of justice. Now, an entire trial in 2008 was held over the question of whether that recording was authentic and unaltered. Yet, at present, the government cannot tell anyone what happened to the specific recording. Now, they do not know if they have it. They do not know if it was copied or who copied it. They do not know if it even still exists. They presently cannot say whether the recording they have is the inaccurate and compressed recording that imbrued Judge Gaughan's trial in 2008. If it is the recording turned over to the state by the Sun-Times, or if it is some other version that has surfaced over the years, if they cannot tell the court or the defense even that much, then they cannot establish that the recording they wish to play to the jury is authentic or that a proper chain of custody has been established. So if the government intends to show a video and claim it is the same video one that was at issue in the 2008 trial, then the federal rule evidence of 901 requires that the government to present evidence authenticating that it is the same video. United States versus Fluker. To meet this burden, the government must establish, now under this case law, United States versus Fluker, it states that to meet this burden, the government must establish that a chain of custody demonstrating the tapes are in the same condition, or testimony demonstrating the accuracy and trustworthiness of the tapes. Now, pause for a second. Now, for videotape number 4, if I'm not mistaken, it's videotape number 4, I think. One of those videotapes, right? The one with, right, videotape number 4. And I believe that's the one that has Lisa and Rashana in, right? With R. Kelly. Now, you see how it says here, it says that to meet the burden, the government must establish that the chain of custody demonstrating the tapes are in the same condition, so it has to be the original tape, or testimony demonstrating the accuracy and trustworthiness of the tapes. Now, remember, in one of those motions, I don't remember which one, it discussed about the tapes, and it had stated that that tape is missing. It's not there, but there are the girls that were in the tape that can give testimony demonstrating the accuracy and trustworthiness of the tapes, as well as people who actually witnessed watching that tape. Because the government did mention that in the motion. I don't remember which one it is, damn it. So. But it's in there, y'all. So if the tape is missing, I mean, it doesn't matter, because there could be testimony demonstrating the accuracy and the trustworthiness of the tapes. So as long as the government can meet this burden of proof and prove it, there you go. Then it says, but thus far, the government has fallen well short. The agents explicitly stated they did not know which of their copies was shown at the 2008 trial or 2002 grand jury or provided to the defense. Worse, the agents cannot verify that the tapes have not been altered or are in the same condition. Now, see Griffin versus Bell, another state law. And in this state law, in this case, in Griffin, there was a video recording that was inadmissible. Okay, a video recording was inadmissible under the rule 901. And that's because the proponent could not verify, pardon me for that, could not verify that the video was authentic and could not say how the video was made or whether it had ever been altered. So here we know that there was, at the very least, one altered version of the tape created by the state, the one that was provided to the defense prior to the 2008 trial, and which became the Rotten Tomato in Judge Gahn's trial. So, without additional discovery to establish authenticity and chain of custody, the government cannot verify that they have the same tape shown in the earlier proceedings or that their tapes are in the same condition. So he wants a whole explanation as to, is this the original? Where did it come from? Who was holding it? Who made the copies? That's what he wants to know. So it appears that the government is preparing to sully the record in this case with the same tainted concoction that resulted from the rotten tomato. I can't even believe he's calling it que rotten tomatoes. So pignantly described by Judge Gahn 14 years ago. That's the way Judge Gahn described the video, as a rotten tomato. He should have named it disgusting, not no fucking rotten tomatoes. Why are you giving it rotten tomatoes? You should have said disgusting video. Judge Gahn. I don't like him. Oh, God. Y'all need to subpoena him. Something's funny with him. I'm sorry. This court cannot let that happen. To admit this recording into evidence, the government must provide discovery establishing, 1, that a chain of custody leading from the government to the Cook County State's Attorney's Office, to the Chicago Police Department, to the hands of Jim DeRogatis at the Sun-Times in February of 2002. So they want them to provide evidence, okay, establishing the discovery by the chain of custody leading from the government to the Cook County State's Attorney's Office, to the Chicago Police Department, to the hands of Jim DeRogatis at the Sun-Times in February of 2002. Now, 2, clear evidence indicating what happened to the inaccurate compressed copy of the video referenced in the 2008 trial, so that we can be sure it will not be shown to the jury in this case. What? 3, clear evidence explaining how the government can prove that what they purport to show the jury is not the inaccurate compressed copy from the 2008 trial. 4, evidence showing that what they have in their possession is the accurate and unaltered version of the video provided by the Sun-Times in 2002, rather than any other lesser or perhaps more enhanced version. This is not difficult. At least it should not be. All the government has to do is provide the court and the defense 2 separate video exhibits. One that is the very video obtained by the state from the Sun-Times, and another that is the inaccurate compressed copy that falsely claimed to be an identical reproduction of the original. These exhibits were admitted at trial. This should be within the ability of the United States Attorney's Office, and it certainly is their obligation to do so. So if the government cannot at least prove to this court that they have the actual exhibits from the 2008 trial, then they should not be permitted to admit this recording into evidence. So trial and grand jury exhibits are received for the purpose of being maintained. So the government is telling the defense they have no way to know what happened to the real exhibits, admitting during the 2008 trial. So that is unacceptable. Now, the government intends to show to video 1 to minor 1 and ask her if she made false statements about the video to a Cook County grand jury. Now, if they cannot even prove that the video they are showing her now is the same video that Cook County received from the Sun-Times back in 2002, and the same video she was asked about back before the 2002 grand jury, then their chain of custody is woefully insufficient, and this video must be excluded. Right. So now, like that gentleman was saying, the lawyer analysis in CNN, he said, well, they have to find out chain of custody and blah, 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 right? Because like what happened before in R. Kelly's other trial, they had to drop 7 charges because there was no timestamp on the photos. There was no timestamps on the photos. So they had to drop the charges on those 7 photos. That's why it went from 21 to 14. Okay. What was I? In short, if the state has somehow lost the actual exhibits from the 2008 trial, and no one can prove that what the government has in its possession is actually the same video that was received by the state in 2002 and referenced with witnesses in the 2002 grand jury, then the government cannot be permitted to show it to the jury in this case and pretend that it is actually the same recording that was discussed from 2002 to 2008 during the pendency of Robert Kelly's Cook County case. Now, the government needs to obtain the actual exhibits from the 2008 trial and from the 2002 grand jury so they can establish a complete chain of custody and prevent Judge Gaughan's apocryphal tomato from polluting the integrity of yet another judicial proceeding. Wherefore, Derrel McDavid respectfully moves this court to order a disclosure of the items detailed above. And that is the end of that, I think. Yeah, right? 9, 10, yeah. Lord have mercy. So, that's what they have to go up against. Next, guys. Yes. Yes, this is what's going to happen now. So now, this is a challenge. They challenged them. So now the government has to produce the chain of custody. All right. Whoever's in the chat, can you please block that? All right. Can you guys please report it? I already blocked it. Report it as spam content. Thank you. Okay. All right, so guys, there was something else. All right, I'm going to where was the other one? I'm looking for a video, guys. Give me a second. I can't see what you guys are doing right now. Give me a second. Okay. Here we go.
I'm going to make some brief comments, and then I'll take a few questions. I can confirm that earlier today we handed over a second videotape to prosecutors. The videotape depicts Mr. Kelly engaged in illegal sexual assault of a 14-year-old girl. It is approximately 55 minutes in length. The conduct in the tape can be described as nothing short of outrageous, illegal. It leaves no question as to Mr. Kelly's guilt. On the tape, Mr. Kelly repeatedly refers to the victim as having a 14-year-old body part, a vagina, although that is not the word that he uses on the tape. I'm not going to use it here today at this moment for obvious reasons. In addition, over the weekend, we have encountered a number of additional witnesses who we have interviewed, who we are in the process of preparing to meet with prosecutors. Each of these witnesses describe a decades-long system of abuse by Mr. Kelly of underage girls and conduct that is illegal, criminal, and is indicative of someone that should never walk free another day in his life. All of these young girls are not lying, ladies and gentlemen. It is impossible and it is outrageous for Mr. Greenberg and other enablers of Mr. Kelly to suggest that all of these young ladies, after 28 years, are lying about this conduct. This man deserves to be locked up for the rest of his life. And the fact of the matter is, and I'm going to call it like I see it, had these victims not been black, and had they not come from, in many cases, disadvantaged households or households of a lower socioeconomic status, this guy would not be walking free today. Those days, however, are over. This reign of abuse and assault by Mr. Kelly is about to come to an abrupt and permanent end. In addition, we're in the process of investigating his enablers, and I referenced this last week. The attorneys, the agents, and the managers that enabled this course of conduct, all in the interest of money, transporting these young girls across state lines, arranging for their hotel rooms, arranging to keep them hidden, covering up their existence, convincing them not to go to authorities, obstructing justice, destroying documents, tampering with evidence, and paying people off, and the list goes on and on. This conduct is outrageous, and we're going to do everything in our power to cooperate with prosecutors, cooperate with investigators, and make sure that justice is finally done in this case. In addition, we have come to learn of the existence of yet a third videotape, and I believe that there are many, many videotapes, I might add, but a third videotape that depicts yet additional sexual assault and abuse by R. Kelly. I'll take a few questions.
Where are these tapes coming from? How are you getting your hands on this?
We're getting our hands on these tapes through the 10-month investigation that we've undertaken on a pro bono basis around the country. We've got a lot of people working on this. We've had a lot of people working on it since April of last year when we were first approached. I took a personal interest in this case because as a father of two teenage girls, 14 and 16, I find this conduct outrageous, and I am disgusted by it, and I am disgusted by the fact that this man, together with his enablers and his handlers, have been able to get away with this for 28 years.
The tape that you turned in today, what year do we think that was recorded?
In 99 or 2000.
The victim involved in the Cook County case.
I'm sorry?
The victim on the second tape that you turned in today, is the victim part of the indictment?
Yes.
The third tape, is the third tape a different victim or one whose name was identified?
I'm not going to answer that question. Anything else? Yeah, I'm not going to get into the description of the third tape. I appreciate it. Thank you.
The verdict is in. You heard it clear. R. Kelly sentenced 30 years. I believe I could fly. It's gone. Can't believe they let it fly that long. They knew it well though. Like his song, they just kept it on the down low. Now karma has arrived. Now let's reflect how this started. Turn back the hands of time, the Lord Robin. 8 years old in the shop, single mother. 2 brothers and a sister who was touching him. To 14, feeling the pain, biting his nails, nervous, feeling the shame. Traumatized like any kid would. And she just smiling like everything was good. Instead of dealing with his trauma that spawned, he ran to the industry. The monster was born. From singing on the subway back then to Grammy Awards, working with Michael Jackson, having fiestas, but still not ill, turned evil. You know, hurt people, which led to his first victim, Aaliyah, baby girl aspiring to be a singer. Family wanted her to win, and she had an uncle that was in the industry who knew R. Kelly at the time, so she got signed. Well, at this point, it got messy. PG-13 got with rated R. Kelly. Suspicious from the jumper. Dropped the song Age is Nothing But a Number. Weird interviews. Embarrassed. Soon leading to a pregnancy and a marriage. The industry just turned the blind eye. It all blow over. The time flies. 2000s come moving forward. Still winning. Getting new awards. Still praised, giving honor. Then a tape came out with him and a minor. Yo, all I'ma say is sick, y'all. As a man, literally pissed off. His face, bright as day. All that there and still got away. No witnesses to put the man in jeopardy. Till one day, seems like they ready. Yep, I guess enough was enough. Like you said, when a woman's fed up, everything indefinitely. Then came the documentary, Surviving R. Kelly. Now that one is hitting different. Displaying a whole bunch of victims. Abuse and such. Tears in his eyes. I didn't do this stuff. It's getting darker. No more dating little kids. His new date is with karma. Mr. Rob. No more step in the name of love. You now walk the prison yard. 30 years vicious. Now, locked up the parents that help assist us. Legacy put to death. Now Elvis, you next.
It's not about music. I'm trying to have a relationship with my kids. And I can't do it. Y'all just don't want to believe the truth. You don't want to believe it.
At this point, we briefly pause the interview to give Kelly a moment.
Good night, y'all. Have a wonderful evening. Good morning to some. And you already know Diva Divine Light is out. Peace.